Welcome to FMA Talk Live. I'm your host, Datu Tim, and this is my phenomenal co-host.
PG Ties here. Welcome, everyone.
I hope everyone had a great weekend. A lot of things going on, a lot of cool stuff coming down the pike. Real quick, we'll start at the beginning of the show. If you haven't already do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit that notification button, and feel free to share this video wherever you feel appropriate. And heck, even if you don't feel appropriate.
We're not.
You went to an event this weekend, didn't you?
I did, yeah. PG Chad had a great event out there in Hockessin, I think they pronounce it, Delaware.
Delaware, yeah. That's a little thing that we call a state, but it's probably just a county, but that's okay.
Guru Darrell was there.
Oh, nice. Yep. And you were there at PG's, and it's great when we have the team go out and do something and members can support each other on that. I know PG Ty goes out and supports as many events as possible, and I know PG Chad does the same thing. Unfortunately, sometimes work gets in the way. I'll go down to Ty's event. Ty'll come up to my events. We'll all try to support whenever possible, and in a positive way where it doesn't take away from the instructor. It's all about a support mechanism. So I'm going to talk about the two next shows before we talk about today's. So next week we're going to be in What's in a Name. We're going to talk about how names have changed for rebranding. When you need to change the name of the art, or what are reasons why you might want to, why not want to? But it's been come up a few times. So why would you rename your martial expression? Are you breaking away from someone? Proper representation of what you're doing? Fill in the blanks. And Praise Sarnice, as usual, ends up being one of those things as a topic, as a model, because I have rebranded what I do, and we'll talk about that and how you can do this in a positive way to do things. And then we can also talk about the negative aspect of things. So when we're talking to people, we can try to sift through the minutia and try to figure out what the deal is. So that'll be next week. The week after that, a repeat visitor, Mr. Chris from Vulpes Training Blades. Yep. So he's got some new innovations. We want to see how the business is going a year later. Really excited. He's got a new line of stuff out, and I got to see actually something end up in my mailbox. So pretty cool. Nice. So he's going to be on next week's show. So with no further ado, we're bringing on a good friend of the show. It's great to have someone who supports the show, asks for nothing, especially when you consider this guy's martial background. Yep. So we're like, you know what? We really, really need to take advantage of this opportunity to break someone of his caliber on the show if he felt that was a good thing for him. For some reason, he feels we're a good fit. I haven't figured that out why, but hey, you know what? There's no accounting the taste in the martial art world. Sure. We're odd coconuts, and we all got to clump together. So with no further ado, Coach Danny Terrell. Danny, how you doing?
Oh, doing well. And we are all strange in our own ways.
Yes, we are. Some stranger than others. I embody that. So Ken Jowers says hello from, I'm going to assume it's one of Tuhan Jack's students by looking at that logo. Love the green.
He follows Jack. He follows me.
So Primo Luciano, one of my Arnis students who also became a cage fighting champion in a league and is now coaching new fighters, which actually is going to tie in a little with today, because what better person to talk about stuff like that than you? All right. So there are so many things we can talk about. We go through the list of the show. It's I took it right from his page. Coach Danny Terrell, martial artist, coach, Sifu teacher, friend, veteran, father, husband, grandfather, and in my case, much, much more, because the thing here is martial artists, as an instructor, it really does not tell you all of those things. Those words aren't enough. I mean, we become counselors, marriage counselors, and job counselors, and all these other type of things. We're psychotherapists at time. And the whole thing is maybe some of us should have gotten therapy, but we couldn't afford it, so we did martial arts instead. So,
that was that's sort of my wife's take on it as well. She says, you're far more than just a martial arts instructor or a practitioner, by all means. All these people come in with problems.
So let's do the basics.
Sure.
When did you start? Like, what year did you start training martial arts?
Well, I started boxing when I was 11.
Okay.
And the reason back in the late into the 50s and into the early 60s, boxing was very prevalent here in New Iberia. Boxing was in the schools. New Iberia High School was a powerhouse as far as boxers go.
Nice.
They were part of the sporting program. By the mid 60s, it was taken out. But so I started boxing when I was 11. My mom was very much against it. My dad was sort of, why do you want to box? You don't need to do that kind of stuff. You know, we're smarter than that. We're intelligent. You can use your brain versus using your brawn. And I had some friends that were boxers. I had a older brother that was 1 year older than me that was autistic, or it is autistic. He's still alive, but he got picked on badly, and so I got in lots of scrapes with that. We grew up in a school that was right next door to the projects, and nothing wrong with people in the projects by any means, but they're a tough breed. You know, they come in from the street and they're tougher, and so I wanted to box, and I asked for 2 years, and finally my dad said, okay, we'll take you and let you do some boxing, and got into that. And I wasn't a very good boxer because at the time I was not a very coachable person, to be honest with you. I was pretty self-centered, thought that I was better than what I was, and learned through the school of hard knocks that sometimes you got to quit trying to prove that you can and listen and do what they tell you to do. So from there, I boxed for 2 years, and then UL, the University of Southwest Louisiana at the time, in Lafayette, which is about 20 miles away from New Iberia. So back then, 20 miles is a long way. Today, 20 miles is a long way if you're walking, huh? But my dad, there was a wrestling coach that came into UL and started a wrestling program. There was absolutely no wrestling in Louisiana at all, or at least that I knew of. There may have been some up in the north, but none in South Louisiana. And he came in and started a wrestling program for UL. And of course, nobody knew any wrestling. And so there was no feeder program coming up. So he started a summer program for about 2 months in the summer to go in once a week and do wrestling. So my dad brought me to UL. He was really good about wanting me to wrestle, not so much about boxing, but wrestling. So I went in and did the wrestling through the summer programs. And after the second summer, he moved on until the whole wrestling program fell apart. So, but I had 2 summers of good basic wrestling. And then of course that added on to what I was doing with boxing. It helped me become a little bit more coachable. And then of course I got into got into junior high football, track, played some basketball, played baseball, and just did sort of the gambit of sports. And then when I was 16, UL started a trampoline program. And so they had a summer program again for the trampoline. And my father said, I'm thinking you can start learning trampoline. So I did that, which of course learned a lot more about using your body, being inverted in lots of ways. And then just, you know, it's all about body mechanics. Everything that I was learning was about body mechanics and how to use your body. So did that for 2 summers, and then got into Shotokan. Did 4 years of Shotokan, got my black belt, and then went into the military from there. And from that, it was I did a lot in the military as far as for training with other people, because I had some Shotokan. A lot of the other guys that was around, it was about 10 or 12 of us. We would get together and play a gambit, Ishinru, Taekwondo, some other boxers, and we would just play, spar each other. And there was a lot of things that we sort of shared back and forth. And then we got into, you know what, if we really want to use this stuff, there's a lot of things that we do that's garbage, because we need to use it now, not 2 months from now. It's going to take us 3 months, 4 months of training and drilling to get this good. Then we threw it out. We just started. And so most of the stuff turned around a bit more like boxing again, or kickboxing. kind of watered everything down. No forms or anything, because forms were nothing wrong with forms, but it wasn't what we needed for right now. And then once I got out of the military, I had enough of fighting. I didn't want anything. It's pretty amazing what a human being can do to another human being. So moved on and into college. Dropped out of college, got into trade school, and started a family. And when my son was, I think, 5, my wife, he showed interest in wanting to do getting into some training, and so we started training with him. She took him to a guy, Stephen Young, and she said, yeah, Stephen Young. I said, oh, I know Stephen Young. I trained with him. And so we hooked up and started training, and I've been training ever since. So we can get in deeper to other aspects, but through Steve, I went to a seminar in Little Rock. So everything was long distance back then, other than Steve and I playing together. Went to Little Rock, met this guy, Francis Fong, or I can't say I met him, saw him, was at the seminar with him. Was just totally blown away. And a lot of the stuff that he had was, I was like, you can't use that. You can't use that. But other things, he was just so fast, and he was always on point, always in control. So that sort of piqued my interest and said, yeah, I'd like to be able to play with that. Of course, there was nothing around to play with it. So it was about 4 years later before I actually started training Wing Chun. We had some other guys that we sort of played around with, trying to play with some of the drills that we looked at, but didn't know what we were doing with them.
Now, when you were doing that with Francis or getting exposed, what era was that? What was that, like the 90s, the 2000s?
That was in 88 or 89.
So at that time, was he a little more pure towards or less blending? Because like now, like when I saw him recently, he's got everything together. His expression is not what I look as the normal Wing Chun man anymore.
Yeah, everything he does is Wing Chun is done through Wing Chun eyes. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Right. But it's done in all environments.
Right.
He will grapple with it. He will box with it. But everything is done through Wing Chun eyes. At the time, it was, to me, what I saw was just Wing Chun, but that was my first exposure to Wing Chun. So I can't say that I wasn't a Bruce Lee fan. There's, lots of guys got into Bruce Lee. At the time, I was like, it's a movie, guys. It's a movie. And is he athletic? Absolutely. He's a phenomenal athlete, but it's a movie. So I wasn't enthralled with it as far as for getting into the bug biting me as far as that goes.
Now, are you certified in JKD by any chance?
No. I've done a lot of it, but I haven't certified.
It's funny because like my friend and I, we were so big fanboys in high school. And then by the time I got access to doing Jeet Kune Do, I was all, neck deep in FMA. And I it's a cool experience to play with.
Yeah.
But I love my Filipino martial arts.
I use a lot for my personal expression. I use a lot that I've learned from John Fon and into the JKD stuff. But the politics was just so horrible. And I stayed away from it.
Was your exposure more on the Inasano side of things, or?
Yeah, it was through, and then, I ran into Patrick Strong. Oh gosh, I can't think of the other guy's name now. A couple other guys. What's the guy from Alabama? He's in a lot of the. Anyway, yep. I crossed hands with a number of different guys, and they were all good, and it was all, but they were fanboys, and that's not me.
I get it. I get it.
I was looking for something that's practical that I can use now, or that I can blend into whatever I had now. So I've researched a lot of different arts, Taekwondo, Ishinru, Goju-Ryu, all the Rus, Not to say that I'm any good with it, but I was just enthralled with learning how to use my body in different ways.
Here we go. And here's from the fire starter himself, our favorite friend, which when I say that, I love Paulo. Yeah. I love Paulo, a Wing Chun guy who wasn't impressed by Bruce Lee. What is the world come to? And then Mike Pryor, or actually Les Lyman, says, hello, gentlemen, and Ty.
Nice.
We got to get our witty things going on right now. Then Ken, same here. I played with the Wing Chun here and there, and it was as well as a few other things, but my love as FMA was greater. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, the nice thing here is it's funny when people talk about martial arts. They go, if we're talking about food, no one ever says, how dare you not like Italian food or not like Chinese. I mean, Ty comes to Buffalo. He has a Chinese background. He doesn't like Chinese food, And I'm like, hey, let's go out for Chinese, like the whole group, because the buffet is easy to go. And I'm like, and then Ty doesn't do it. So what do I do to be the good host? I find something else that's all good for us. I like Chinese food, but I don't fault him for having bad taste. I just sit there and say, hey, he's my friend, and we have a different opinion. And you would think we could, if we have that opinion there, why can't we have the same opinion on martial arts, politics, religion, fill in the blanks? But of course, martial arts is just like talking about politics and religion, very polarizing.
Yeah, people get very emotional about it.
It's not my fault that the rest of the world doesn't know what the hell they're talking about.
That and everybody gets confused and they think everybody does martial arts for their reasons, their same reasons. No, everybody does it for their own reasons.
Absolutely. I say that often, is everybody comes for a different reason and they want a different outcome, and that's okay too. I got into Wing Chun later. Bruce Lee was back in the early 70s and everything. And did I see the movies and all? Yeah. And other guys were just fanboys, and it just wasn't my thing. I just wasn't interested in it.
Great movies. Here's the thing. So so I like giving props where props due. I know some people are, I know someone who's really against Bruce Lee because they're upset. And I think really what it boils down to is that Bruce Lee's pictures or faces on t-shirts and this person wasn't. We're not going to talk about what his name is. But the thing here is you have to understand, okay, Bruce, for everyone listening here, Bruce Lee lit the match for Jeet Kune Do.
Absolutely.
He died way too young. I mean, okay, listen. He was ahead of his time. He was an athlete. He was openly cross-training when many people weren't. And when you would go up against purists, he had such diversity. He could outdo some things, but he wasn't the fighter that they made him out to be either. That being said, he was the one that probably had the biggest influence on American adult martial artists. Because when Enter the Dragon hit, it blew it open. A lot of good things. And then, like I said, he was the one that lit the match. But
he promoted.
He wasn't the one that kept it going. If you want to look at Jeet Kune Do, you look at Danny and Asano and the students. Like when you want to talk about Angel Serrata, don't look at Angel Cabales. He was just the first to create. He created it, but it's his students that have carried it on. I'm gonna put the mute on. I'm gonna let Ty take over because somebody, my other co-host, can you hear him?
I hear him. Yes.
Yeah. He's upset. We had a 3.8 earthquake in my town, literally in my town this morning. I woke up at 6:15,
shaking,
and then I went back to bed. So, but he did the same thing. We looked at each other. Was that an earthquake? And he goes, "Woof. Should we go back to bed?" Woof. Yeah. And we did. So, I'm going to pay attention to him for a little bit. Let's get into Pakiti. Ty, take a point.
I wanted to make a statement. You made the comment that Bruce was the first one to openly cross-train, and I would say openly.
Yeah.
When you look at,
let me rephrase this. He was the one that promoted cross-training openly.
Yes.
Publicly, not even openly, just publicly.
Because we know, Ty will tell you,
all the masters,
they cross-trained all the time.
All the really good masters that came across, they all had multiple training partners and multiple instructors. Absolutely.
Well, heck, even Wing Chun has its roots in crossing between several styles. Mantis, 18 styles combined, blah, blah, blah. We get the idea. Yep. Yeah. No. So actually, let's continue on. So we know you from playing with Kitty Tersha buddies, and it was nice enough that Jack invited us, and we got to meet you, or I got to meet you. I think you knew Tim already ahead of time. But how did you get from where you described up to now, even with Shotokan, which I noticed doesn't show up on your bio part of your page?
Well, I don't do Shotokan anymore. So
no, I get you. Yeah. So what happened to get you from that start and that wide variety of interests to what you do now, which is not just Bikini, but let's get you
Sure.
to where people know you from now.
So again, I was my son had started with Stephen Young, and when my wife told me who it was that she had brought him to, I said, yeah, I know Steve. I trained with Steve back years ago in '68, and so I called Steve, went in, we sat down, talked for a little bit. Said, yeah. So we started playing, and I was doing things not in the classes with Steve. I was doing stuff outside of the classes with him. We were just sort of playing together. He was training my son, and I think it was a good thing because trying to train your own kids can be tough sometimes. And my son was, oh, Dad, come on, Dad. Oh, and I was probably the same way. I know I was the same way with my dad. So, you're a hero until you're the zero, right?
Right.
And
it's just that stuff that my dad does. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I wanted him to be his own thing. And so, but Steve and I started playing. And from there, it got to the point where I started doing more and more and more into the schools with him, and then started teaching for him. We continued to train Wing Chun together with a little bit that we knew. And then in '92, I said, that's it. I'm going to Atlanta, and I'm going to go knock on Sifu Fong's door and see what happens. And so I did. And it's funny. I walked in, and there was a class that was going on at the time. So I just stood there very respectfully. Didn't want to walk into the school place, but just stood there. And he noticed me, and he came over and he said, Arkansas.
Nice.
And I said, yeah, I did a seminar about 4 years ago in Arkansas.
Nice.
And he said, yeah, come on in. And I just sat and watched, and then we talked for a little bit. And then I did a private lesson with him and got blown away, and stayed there for 2 days, and then went on home, and we continued a long distance love affair going back and forth. Steve started training with him. I trained with him. We shared the stuff that we were doing with Wing Chun. Through Sifu, met Guru Dan, and then started doing some training with Guru Dan. I had when I was in the Philippines in '74, and then again in '75, and in '75 I had I was in the park, and some guys were doing some stick drills and stuff. And so that was my first exposure to FMA, not knowing what it was. There was a group of guys that were 5 or 6 of them, whatever, that were banging each other with sticks, and I said, those guys are nuts.
Right.
I mean, it was interesting, but it was sort of like, why with a stick? But looking at it from afar and not knowing what was going on, it kind of piqued my interest. But so when I got with Guru Dan, it was John Fawn, and that was more what I was looking for because of the tie-in to Wing Chun. Yes, it was Bruce Lee, but it was more the tie-in to Wing Chun. Through Guru Dan, began to understand more of what the philosophies were that Bruce had, versus it being a movie, and got into that. But then, as the deeper I got into it, the more politics I saw.
People.
And at the time, I called him Dan's bodyguards. They were the guys that were training with him, was under his tutelage, and you couldn't get next to him without going through those guys.
Right.
So it was they were his bodyguards. The protectors were there all the time. And then of course they had all of the the people that wanted to take pictures with him and touch him, and I said, these people are like, he's a deity. Come on.
So one of the things I'm noticing, is
disrespectfully by any means, because
right.
it's just that was the way that it was at the time.
Okay.
After a couple of years of just making seminars with him, whether it was in Dallas, Oklahoma, Houston, Atlanta a lot. He would go to Atlanta once a year at least. So going to Atlanta. One day he said, "Hi Dan, how you doing?" And that was kind of cool. Oh,
right.
Ooh, Dan knows my name.
Well, I noticed as you were describing what you went through, almost, well, not all of them, not almost, but the preponderance of things that you've done and mentioned, and also that are on your list, involve some sort of, I would say, contact, but really physical feedback, right? Some reality as far as what you can feel and what you can bounce back and understand physically, if you will. Is that part of what attracted you to all this variety? I noticed that trend.
Yes. Look, I don't know why. My wife has asked me this many, many times. Why do you think you're so obsessed with this? I said, I don't know, but this is where my spirit feels the best. I think it's, for the most part, the people that I have been influenced by, because they've been very, very good men. For the most part. I mean, there's a few, but I just feel good, and I enjoy the physical contact. We have a strange sense of friendship.
Right.
Hit me with a stick. Hit me in
Very
the face.
sadomasochistic.
Right.
Kick me, and then it's like, oh yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Do it again. How'd you do that?
Yeah. And
so let's see what some of our watchers are saying. So our baby Dill says, "Good evening, everyone." Then we have Dexter James. Bruce Lee did a lot of FMA and Kempo in his movies too. Datu. It's hard to pigeonhole him. I don't know how many movies he really did the Arnis in, the FMA in, because I thought it was just really Enter the Dragon. I'm not sure about the Kempo because I mean, listen, Inasano was a Kempo black. It was a Parker black belt. So I mean, there's a lot of good things that came from that. That relationship, all the way from the Philippines. Billy Jewell, one of our favorite friends, that Pugay from Smoking Sticks,
Billy.
Philippines. Frank from Connecticut.
Hey, Frank.
And there's some other clown from Connecticut. You might know him.
Hey.
Dean Franco.
Oh, that Franco.
Hey there. Yep, a great pick.
Yep.
So how did you? Okay, so we got all the friends of song and stuff like. How do you get the PTK, or as I refer to Pikita Tertia, PT?
In the late '80s, probably, I don't remember if it was '88 or '89. It was somewhere in there. Went to a seminar in New Orleans. I was invited to go. It wasn't anything I was looking for, but I was invited to go. And it was more of a reciprocal thing. We had done some stuff with some other guys. And so, okay, y'all came to us. I'll go to you guys. And Omar Hakim was doing a Pikiti seminar in New Orleans. So Omar had been training with Leo. And the bug bit me. And what was it? I don't know. I got hit and said, wow, that was cool.
Right.
Let's do that again. And the bug hit me, and I enjoyed it. Again, probably because of the people. I think that makes a huge difference when you train with good people who bring you in and they don't make you feel like you're inferior, or that they just help you get better. And Omar was at the time was a lot better at it than I was, and he was able to explain what we were doing and made me feel good about it, and I enjoyed it. And so I started training with Omar once a month. I would drive to New Orleans. New Orleans is about 2.5 hours away from where I am. We would train for 4 hours, and then I would drive home dragging my hands over the steering wheel because I couldn't grip the steering wheel from gripping the sticks. We'd do things like doing push-ups, hold 2 sticks, and then use the puños, reverse grip, put the puños on the ground and do push-ups like that. So you're working your grips. And then, of course, lots of hitting and banging and blisters on your hands until they got tempered and got used to it. So, yeah, and I enjoyed it. And it was different from everything else that we were doing in its own right. Eventually it all sort of comes back around. There's only so many moves that you can do with the human body. Mm-hmm. And after a while, it all begins to be the same.
Any idea what happened to Omar? Because Jack was wondering.
The last time I heard from Omar was probably 5 or 6 years ago. He had sent an email out. Had an email that came through that I hadn't used in years. So it was an old email that he had for me, and he was doing some type of salat mix that he had put together, and he was in Dallas at the time. And I had some other things going on, so I wasn't able to meet. And that's the last time I heard from him. So I have no idea where he is anymore. He had gone to Indonesia for several years, and had come back to the States, but I don't know what happened or where he's at anymore.
All right. So then Primo, Enter the Dragon, and Any Game in Death, FMA. Then Brian from Pennsylvania says hello, Erie.
Hello, Brian.
One of our guys. And then Danny is unofficially consigliere. LOL. His consigliere. There you go. Yep. Unofficially.
Yeah.
So
with the training with Omar, as I grew with the system, and of course I continued to stay with Wing Chun, did some cross training over with Guru Dan, met Arjun Chai, started doing the first time that I got kicked by a Thai fighter, I was like, I want that.
Right.
I want that.
Right.
Not that you wanted to receive that on a regular basis.
No, not right. No.
I want that in my repertoire.
It was to be able to generate that much power in a kick,
right, in
such a short movement.
Right.
That was what really, I was like, I'd never felt that kind of kick power. So
do you remember when Chuck Norris put that card together and the big brawl happened down the middle of the ring? So one of my friends, Saxon Genjira, he was one of the guys that got in the. So basically, Chuck Norris puts on this fight card, and it was Thai fighters versus American kickboxers, but they had never dealt with leg kicks before. Mm-hmm. So as every match came up, they kept changing the rules, and it ended up with people throwing chairs in the ring. Like eventually, Saxon or just grabbed the guy, started kneeing and elbowing, and just that was it. Then people were like, "What the hell's going on?" Well, a bunch of Thais got a little upset about things, so you don't want to mess with them with their fight culture.
Well, the Thais kick the legs.
Yes, they do.
And in everything in karate up until then, you didn't kick the legs, you kicked the body, you kicked with the head. So guys weren't tempered in their legs. They're tempered for kicking, but they weren't tempered for being kicked.
Right.
Yeah. That destroyed their legs, and they didn't like that.
Yeah, I never knew what Thai boxing was when I started, and I loved kicking the leg. I mean, we used to always just do full body. We just said we do full body sparring, but we would. It's just because I didn't have rule. I didn't grow up in a traditional school, and I did a lot of backyard training. And I said, well, what would happen if we kicked each other in the shin? Well, let's find out.
Yeah.
And then, as I got older and had nice things and didn't want to lose nice things and wanted to make sure that my insurance company would cover me, I had to follow a set of rules that were a lot safer for everybody, which is different than personal development in backyard versus running a commercial business, and listen, we all probably had access to that commercial business one way or another, that school that brought us up. And then what you do on your own personal journey with friends in a different off-site situation is a lot different.
Well, we had in our school, we had the kids program, and then we had the adult program, and then we had the serious martial artists, and then we had the fighters.
There you go.
And when we had fighters were done at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And everybody, why so late? Because you don't want fighters with these other guys. Yeah. That people get hurt.
Well, let me ask you this. What? Okay, so I don't know if did you ever know Ron Browning out of
No,
Dallas?
I don't believe so. No.
So Ron Browning used to fight for Don King. He also had a Golden Gloves team and coached. He's a modern East guy as well. Coached Guy Metzger to become the UFC champion.
Yeah.
And he goes, in his club, only about 5% of the people actually fought. The rest pay the bills.
Right.
Was that the experience you had when you
Oh,
were? Yeah. Okay. So for a lot of people out there, you are not.
You don't make money off of fighters.
No.
Right.
You lose money off of fighters.
The money you make off of fighters isn't training people to become fighters. It's having that reputation and then everyone joining because they're fanboys or girls.
Right.
Oh, here we go. I knew this was going to happen sooner or later.
Uh-oh.
Evening, Jensen Tim. That's okay.
They
They got you out earlier, so it's my turn now.
Yep.
We need just someone just, So where's Pizza? We need him to come up and say, hey, how are you good guys and Danny doing? Then all three of us have been covered.
There you go.
There you go.
Because I'm going to try to keep a little on point here. So you've done all of these for lack of what became MMA genre of fighting. It's not, what? Can you hear me?
Did I freeze up or you freeze up?
I can still see you.
I think it's you.
Okay. We're up in there.
We good?
Yep.
Okay. So you got a lot of things going on that all fall into that MMA category. Not that it's MMA, but it falls in that genre. So there's people out here. I mean, obviously we're an FMA first podcast or vlog. So my question to you, because a lot of us come up with objections to people. Why do you do the weapon fighting? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? So what do you, if you are going to give people who are watching advice, because we always try to overcome objection to people to train with us, what benefits do you think that we offer to someone who, I mean, there's a lot of what we do is heavy weapon usage, and some systems out there have no open hand combatives like Balintawak. The people in Balintawak who do open hand stuff, usually it came from a foreign source. So what benefits would you give somebody, like things, give us some tools that when you're talking to someone, why would I want to do FMA if I'm a boxer or a kickboxer or fill in the blanks?
So let me give a little bit of part of my background was having come up with the military and some of the stuff that I did in the military. And I guess it's because of the training that I did with some of the guys there, that was where my mindset came into train with anything and everything that you can and experience as much as you can, because everybody does something different. And if you have never seen it before, then you're not going to know how to react to it. And so your ability to respond is going to be slowed, and that puts you at a higher risk. So the more experience you have and the more things that you've been able to see and associate with, then you'll be able to respond quicker and better. When I started training weapons, not firearms, but impact weapons, edge weapons, the speed at which that comes at you is far greater than a hand or a kick coming at you. And so if you can start learning to be able to see that in time and time that, hands and feet become much, much slower. Now, on the same note, as I've aged, my seeing has come much, much slower too. So, but your ability to time things, to me, that's the biggest thing that working with weapons does. And it makes you have to move your feet, because we move our feet to move our bodies. And if you have an edged, pointed, sharp pointed something coming at you, and you're going to try to use your hands to move it, get your body out of the way. And so all of a sudden, my ability to handle just someone throwing a punch at me became much, much simpler because I'm moving everything out of the way. So in my mind, and again, as I started to age, it became even more important because speed leaves, strength leaves. So being able to time things at a real time and being able to move your body becomes became a lot more important to me. And so I continued with that because I could see where you can't stop that stick. You can't stop that blade coming at you. You got to move. And so to me, when it comes to why do we do sticks and swords and stuff or blade, it's because it's going to make your empty hands better. It's going to make your footwork better. It's going to make your body mechanics better. Period.
I think to me, you know, when you're working with weapons, it kind of puts a microscope on everything you do because it amplifies your mistakes and your successes and gives you that much more feedback.
Well, you know, one of the biggest things that I see with most people that go in with blade stuff, especially knife stuff, is that they don't move their bodies. They're not moving their feet. And you may be able to take that punch from right here, but you're not going to be able to take that point from right here.
So, wait, first of all, so we'll talk about Dexter. I'm gonna expand upon that because I want to talk about that exactly. Combat judo was a big one. Master Zach taught me, so I'm assuming that's Master Zach Taco, and he's a Blintwalk master. So, my thing was, and you just nailed it right there. What I've always talked about with my people is when we're doing open hand combatives, we have a tendency to say, "I can take it," but when I'm dealing with, you know, I can take a punch here, I can take a kick here, I can take that. But anytime I'm doing my weapon training, which is usually probably 50% of my class, I take a poke every now and then with a stick, a sword, a knife, training tools. And in my mind, I go, oh, I got touched. Yeah. And I'm just in a relaxed teaching environment, and it still goes to me. And the thing here is, if we dealt with all of our open hand combatives with that same sense of urgency that we deal with our weapon combatives, how much better would that be? The example I like to use is, Sikaran is a kicking art in the Philippines. It was pre-COVID. The last World Championships was in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I became, in the 50 and older division, I became the world champ. And the reason why I was the world champ, not because I had better kicks than they did, because I don't. But the thing was, I fought them at stick fighting range, and all the fast kicks became lunge attacks. And I was able to pump, and then hit them back. And we were allowed to punch too. And I kicked them, and I punched them, and I did all the stuff I was supposed to do. But what I did was I was weapon fighting them with open hands.
So you played them at a different range.
Exactly. And I've had boxers in my club, and there's no way in heck I can match these boxers. I've had power lifting boxers that set state records that still had all their speed, bobbing and weaving and stuff like that. I'm just like, there's no way I can match this guy. And the only reason why I kept my head on my shoulders was because I would fight him at stick fighting range, and his jab became a lunge punch. I still had to worry about that cross, but I still was able to zone off because I had that. Psychologically, I was creating a distance advantage that he wasn't used to.
Right. Well, you made the point of, you can block a punch. Right? Maybe you can take a few punches with it, but you can block a punch. You can't block that blade being thrust at you.
No.
So it makes the game. Your game becomes much better, and your angles change. Your ability to make angles changes drastically, and that, to me, it just brings you to a whole different level on your game.
I think it's like a supercharger or nitrous on a car, because once that weapon gets involved, I see people's movement change significantly different. And here, speaking of a fighter, so Craig Mason is from 4 hours north of Toronto, and he is a modern arnis practitioner who is on the verge. He's only one event shy of becoming a full dog brother because he hasn't done an international event due to, wait for it, that damn COVID shit. So he's one of our good fighters. And we knew this was going to happen sooner or later. Here we go. That's got to be pizza.
Yep.
Hey guys, guess who? So the pizza. I wonder if there's a limit on how many times you can change your YouTube name, or he's got that many profiles because he keeps losing. So now here's a question. Okay, so this came up the other day. Actually, someone on the show just reached out to me, and I don't know whom. It's a Pikiti guy who actually reached out to me, and I gave him the answer. I gave him a short answer because I didn't know the full answer. Since we're on Pikiti Tertia, what? Well, of course you do. Hey guys, guess who? Formerly pizza turned into a fart. Okay, great. Who created Pikiti? Who's the founder of Pikiti Tersha?
My understanding is Leo's grandfather, his father.
Okay.
So Leo's grandfather's father, his great grandfather,
okay,
is the one that started it in about the my understanding, and this comes from Tuan Bill, who said that it came from Leo. And look, I say Leo because the way that Tuhan was brought up, it was always Leo. Wasn't Tuhan Leo or anything. They knew each other like father and son. And that's how he expresses his name, and that's what I do too. I don't do that as disrespect by any means.
I refer to Grandmaster Remy. Professor Praces was always Remy to us.
Yeah.
And there were so many professors out there. The guys were like, well, it's Remy. And Remy would say, hey, call me Remy. But in front of him, when we were all present, it was always Professor, including when he insisted on it. But at the end of the day, most of us put our pants on the same way.
Yeah.
With a backflip and a twist. So
absolutely. So anyway, is at the end of the 1800s, in the 1890s, is that as far back as they could document that, and it was a family system. It was a relatively small system, wasn't real in depth. As he brought his kids up, he sent his kids out to other villages to train with other escrimadores, and then brought them back in, and then they would train. What did you learn from Ty? What did you learn from Tim? What did you learn from Billy? Whatever. And yeah, this is really good. We'll take it. Stuff that didn't work or whatever, we have something that beats that. They threw it out, and so they fought with it with each other and kind of put it into a pressure cooker and use it as a laboratory. And they just continued to. So they stole from everybody.
Well, everyone did. I mean, the Filipinos.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing that is pure by any means. And from the very first time that you get hit by somebody, and you go, man, what did he hit me with? I want that.
Right.
I want that. How do I stop that?
Listen,
you
and
immediately. Yeah.
Let's look at a global thing here for those who are, in case someone's saying, "Oh, crying foul" right now. When two different cultures come in contact with each other, there is an influence in both directions.
Absolutely.
No questions asked. So, like, okay, you have different.
It could be consensual, and it could be agreeable, or it could be that you're conquering me or I'm conquering you. It's going to be both ways. Yes.
So, like, one of the things, there was a discussion on this on FMA Talk, or no, FMA discussion. I'm FMA Talk. That about, like, I've heard for years people saying, decades even, that all Filipino martial arts comes from Europe. And I don't believe that, because every culture had their own martial system one way or another. I do wonder when the blades came into play, because Filipinos were very much like the Polynesians, where there's a lot of wooden weapons. They didn't have that. They didn't have that same ability to work metal as other cultures. But one of the things that did come up was they try to say Espada Daga comes from Europe, and I think it was probably influenced. I wouldn't be surprised if the Filipinos saw the Europeans using sword and daggers, like, hey, that's working for them. It probably can work for us.
What's relatively recent that shows something along that line?
In martial arts, or just
look at jiu-jitsu. It came from judo,
Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Because here's now for those who don't know, jiu-jitsu was the mother art. When you wanted to play, you would do judo. Eventually, the Kodokan recognized judo as its own separate entity, and people did judo by itself. And then the Gracies learned the ground element of judo, which in the long run, it was jujitsu if you really want to think about it.
Yeah.
But it really is just a ground element. And there really is no such thing as Brazilian jiu-jitsu as the Brazilian flair. Just like if you look at boxing, boxing is more of a global thing, and each country or culture has its own flair or taste to it. And from the Philippines, Grandmaster Unyo says hello. There we go.
Hello, sir.
Greetings from the Philippines. Two great gurus, Dr. Tim and Coach Danny. Look at that. So Grandmaster, although I think that's the wrong name, but that's okay.
Okay. Hi.
He'll take it. He'll take it.
Okay. It's all good.
There we go.
Yeah, I think that this shows where they learn from judo, and they didn't learn all of judo by any means. They learned a portion of it, and what they had was a very low level aspect, and they just continued to develop on their own.
They got good at that low level aspect.
Oh yes, but they continued to develop, and then as they ran into other people and they had other matches, and they struggled on a certain aspect, they said, let's work on that. You know, where did the term Americana come from? It came from, he got joint locked with that, do what the Americana did.
There you go.
You know, so we stole it. So it's there's nothing pure. Everybody steals from everybody.
Right. So let me ask you this. So and of course then we have right there, catch as catch can wrestling is another one. Yep. So this is caught up. This has been one of my pet peeves. Not a pet peeve, but you know, I constantly talk about. I worry about the future of Filipino martial arts, and the reason. And this is actually I finally found it the other day. It was part of Dean Franco's show, and Dean Franco, and we were talking about modern arnis, and I couldn't find the will. I had Remy's will, and I came up against it today, and it talks about it being Remy's life work. And when I was 21 years old, I made this my career. So I'm 57. So this has been the majority of my life. And, you know, I'm concerned about it moving forward. I'm concerned about it dying with us, where it becomes the ambiguous stick program in all these martial arts schools because a lot of people don't do it by themselves. And the biggest problem is that it's not complete in its field of study, but it's a very specific field of study. Like Balintawak is about close quarter combat with stick fighting. So it's all there. But it's not a standalone program to teach people around the world self-defense needs as well. So basically there's no open hand combatives in there. And I know we can dissect and translate things, but I'm wondering, are there open hand combatives that are native to Pikiti? Or I've seen like Jared Wahangi just developed a Panatukan program, because at least in his lineage, he didn't feel he had. And by the way, he apologizes for that. Hey,
all good.
We get it. We get it. Oh, there we go. I thought this threw me off. Americana comes from Sambo and freestyle wrestler Dan Anderson. No relation to the other Dan Anderson, Bob Anderson. Okay, there we go. Bob Anderson. He's another. See, there's typos going rampant tonight. So, are there native open hand combatives inside of Pikiti, or is it more of a taking the move and deconstructing it and reapplying?
Well, when I learned the empty hand versions of it, it was based off of knife.
Okay.
And so everything was, I had a knife in my hand. Now I don't have a knife in my hand. Everything is exactly the same. And then it's developed to the point of, can I create distance and be able to draw a weapon? From there, there's the slaps, the elbows. We have some punches. I have, and this is my personal take on it, it's because of my boxing background and my Muay Thai background, I have incorporated a lot of that within my empty hands for Pikiti. But that's my take on it. When I teach people specifically empty hands per Pikiti, it's based on the fact that you don't have a knife in your hand. Okay. So all those motions are based off of how do I attack the attacking limb? How do I attack your head and create space? Evade, stun if possible, create distance, draw, get an equalizer. That's the premise behind the empty hands, to buy the time to get to your weapon. I think that boxing and Muay Thai can bring so much more into it to make the fighters just better fighters. Okay. So I incorporate it.
Okay. Cool. Okay.
This is not vodka.
You're not convincing us.
I didn't say it wasn't gin.
Oh, gin. Okay, there we go. That's all good. Okay. Martial arts for a career is very hard. Most karate schools fail. Would you think Arnie's schools be 3 times harder due to little marketing attached to it? Once again, what I keep talking about is real simple. When it comes to what we need to do, someone misinterpreted the last time I talked about it. We need to get the F out. We're not Filipino martial artists. We're martial artists. Now, that doesn't mean promoting our Filipino history and lineage, because we definitely embrace that. What I'm saying is that too many times, and it's been on this show as well, we talk about, well, is it a full-time FMA school? Oh, no, you can't have it. We're Filipino. No, that's bullshit. The mindset is we're a martial arts school first. What's your field of study? Filipino martial arts. But we are allowed to have all the same cool stuff that everyone else does. And I am not going to handicap myself in the mindset thinking that I can't do these other things just because I'm Filipino martial arts. Matter of fact, we're going to do it better than everybody else. I mean, we talk about Taekwondo. I mean, come on, Taekwondo, that's not even vanilla ice cream. I mean, French vanilla, that's basic, but they got the biggest school. So we need to do the same damn thing out there so we can have the representation, pay for the top instructors to come in and teach like all the Tuhans out there that we've talked about, all the grandmasters out there, that if we want this person to share things, we can bring them to us. So, Jason, that's a big one. Ty, can you take that one? Oh my God,
sure.
It's most of my screen.
Jason says, Coach Danny is still fast in pretty much all of his students' opinions, and his body mechanics are on another level. He's very humble, but his hands-on experience, boxing, Wing Chun, combat, submission wrestling, Muay Thai, MMA coaching, makes his FMA very applicable, and he always says you got to spar it so you can see what works for you. And of course, he trains with quality instructors that it represents very well. No, I mean, I haven't trained with very much, but I know what I felt. So,
hey, listen, at the end of the day, you can say what, okay, this is what I'll tell you, Coach Danny is being very modest, but you know what happens with old age? Better timing, usually with our jokes, but also the other things too. The other thing too is, listen, I'm assuming, Danny, that you're constantly coaching people, hands-on, feeding them and stuff like that. So this guy is a master of reading the attack. Bobby Tablata talks about a story that he went with his first teacher was Pilo Velez. And he talks about how he was working with his first teacher. And I'm assuming it was Pilo. He'd go back and forth, and like he's far superior to him. He's done all this stuff, and he cannot get a shot in. And his whole thing was, man, I taught you everything you know. You know your fundamental. I know your move before you even know your move. And part of that is, I mean, as we all, when you become teachers, if you're a newer teacher, you haven't experienced this yet. But I mean, it's harder and harder for my students to surprise me with something. Yep. Not because I know the person's going to throw this. It's just that I was like, oh, here comes a hook punch. Here comes a kick. Here comes, no, he's going to try to shoot. What the hell? We're not doing that yet. Okay, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. But we see these things, and timing always improves. Even when the body starts failing us, we learn how to compensate through superior timing, because timing is an attribute that always gets better.
And I would say this too, Tim, is that timing is not something that you can train. It's something that you got to spar it. You got to do it at speed.
Yeah.
And you got to do it with someone trying to take your head off. Now you can do it safely, but you got to do it with someone trying to hit you with a stick or trying to hit you in the face with their fist or kicking you. People who do these drills and say, I'm learning timing. No, you're not learning timing. You're learning cadence. You're learning bop, 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 bop. That's not timing. Timing is when you don't know it's coming. And then how do you develop the ability to read that and be able to meet it? Yes.
Okay, so we got a question for Ty here. Interesting enough here. Question for Ty. Can you tell us anything about your mind control experiments that MK Ultra was working on and how it relates to modernities today. So,
no, that never happened. There, that's all I'm allowed to say.
okay, there we go. How long does it take to for a white belt with no training to feel familiar with a stick in karate? Seems 50 days or 12 classes before people aren't tripping over it. Okay,
Right.
tripping over their feet.
That's the individual. I've seen people come in that are, talent is God given. Some people have the ability to develop body mechanics very, very quickly. Other people come in with 2 left feet.
They just got to work harder.
You got to work harder. That's it. And then you got people who have talent who come in and they're bored because guys, you still got to develop it. You still got to work it. You got to give them stuff that keeps them going. And so it really depends on the individual. I've had people come in a week's time. They're doing footwork that took me 3 months to get.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I hate you, but
no. You listen. Okay, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to, and the risk of sounding ego, I'm a better teacher than my forefathers. Remy was a man who spoke English as a 3rd or 4th language. Actually, it's more like a 4th language. And he didn't have the communication skills. He could inspire people to do things beyond their ability, which was amazing. John Bryant was my first instructor. I look at most of my predecessors. Actually, when it comes to teaching Remy's art, I really, I don't find equals. I mean, the people that I relate to, I like Kelly Warden and I. We have our own way of doing things, but we have a similar vibe, but different. But a lot of guys out there, besides our crew, we've worked to become better because we also debrief after our seminars and we talk to each other, go, hey, do you think they got it? No. What do you think I should have said to this group? Maybe I should try a different delivery system. So here we go. Terrell Richardson says, hello.
Hello.
Another Terrell. And then here we go. Wait for it. Grandmaster Michael Harone. Experience is the best teacher. All the way from the left coast. Hello, Michael.
Hello, sir.
And then listen, always an open invitation for you to be on our show. Always an open invitation. I know you don't do these, but if you want, we'd love to have you. And then here we go. Bingo. So many FMA drills proposed to work timing, but they absolutely do not. Coach Danny is super duper on point. Super duper. And here we go. Do you know Tony Clay? Great conversation. Yeah. Anderson County local summer camp on PTI. Did I get that right? Am I reading this right? My eyes, I don't know. I need new glasses after I just got them. Hey, speaking of which, hey, what a segue. Tell us what's going on down your neck of the woods.
Oh, yeah. We have on March 24th, 25th, 26th is going to be the Beginner Tertiary International Spring Camp in Louisiana. We're going to be in Lafayette. I'm going to be at an ex-UFC fighters gym, Gladiator Academy. Tim Crater has got a 10,000-foot facility there, so
nice.
They offered us to be in there, which is really nice because this time of the year, March, beginning of April, is usually nice for Louisiana, but there's always the possibility of thunderstorms. Even when they say there's 0% chance of thunderstorms, it happens.
I remember.
Yeah. So it's nice to have a place that's big enough where everybody can be in, and we're going to have 2 different groups. We're going to have we always have a beginner component. So anybody that's interested in getting into Pikiti, whether you have experience in other arts, by all means, we'd love to have you. That's going to be empty hand versus knife techniques. And then we're going to dive deeply into that. We're going to spend 3 days on that. So we're going to cover a lot of material and lots of reps. One of the differences between the spring camp and the summer camp, the summer camp is really about information. And the spring camp is more for the lack of a better term to use, is more of a mastery camp. We less information, but a lot more reps and deeper involvement in what we're doing with it.
Doing your work.
Yes, yeah.
Doing your work. That's our theme here.
One of the things when we started the spring camp, Tuhan, Scott, Falk, and I, 3 years ago. This is about third year. One of the things that we saw in testing people was their depth of knowledge wasn't the same, and there were lots of people that were coming in, getting a little bit of information, taking all the videos and regurgitating what was given within the videos. And something that we constantly say, guys, the videos that you can purchase after you get the information is review videos. They're more like the Cliff Notes. It's not all of the information is inside of the review video. So the core material is there, but you don't get all the variations. And if you don't put in the time getting in the reps, so you don't have the depth of knowledge and you don't have the depth of skill. And that we started seeing some of that. So we were concerned about it. So we said, let's do a camp where we're just going to do lots of reps. And after the second year, we've noticed a significant difference on those people that made our camps versus just the summer camp, because they're getting reps in versus enough reps to remember the information to go home and practice it.
I mean, that's the danger when you have so much to cover, right? It's really easy to become, mile wide and inch deep, and you still have to dig further than that inch. Otherwise, you're not getting anywhere.
Well, there's few people, in my opinion, there are few people that will put in the time to really understand it.
Right.
They'll get a surface part of it. They feel good about it, and then they move on. And if you really want to be good, you got to put in the time.
Right. No, knowing about something is not the same as knowing that thing.
Absolutely. So anyway, we're gonna be having that camp. Tuhan Scott, Tuhan Jack Latour is going to be there, and then myself. We've been trying to get Tuhan Bill to come down, and he says it's too hot in the south. So
I'm not wrong.
So yeah, that's coming up. We'd love to have. Please come. We'd love to have you guys come.
That'd be great.
Well, as I told you before, and
you have something already.
Yeah, but next year, my thing here is, and I tell this to everybody, and this is one of the things for those who are running a business or running martial arts as a business. One of the most important things is to plan your year out in advance. That's why I'm telling people, like, what's going on. I mean, I got some events that are 3 years out. When we're doing the reunion camp and all these other, I've had 5 and 10 year plans for events. And people say, well, how the hell do you do that? I go, because I got to put something down, tentative dates. I've got in my calendar the next 5 years of my summer camps. If I know a year in advance, I can easily massage my schedule. And so your event, okay, what's the dates of your event again?
March 24th, 25th, 26th.
Yeah.
So where would people go if they want to look into maybe making it?
That's a good question.
If nothing else, right, they can contact you probably.
Well, Pikiti.com. It's on the event page at Pikiti.com, which is Pikiti International. Okay. And then you can contact me on Facebook or on Instagram. And we're posting stuff all the time about it. Tuhan Jack posts stuff as well. And just give me a holler. I don't have anything on my website about it because my website is something totally different from what the camp is.
Understood. My school site is specifically about capturing leads.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming if we go to DannyTerrell.net that you will have an email address there that they can reach out to you.
Yes,
well, there you go. So if this is something, okay, listen, everybody, if you can't make it this year and you're thinking about going in the future, by all means, reach out to Coach Danny, get on a mailing list of some sort, and watch what's going on.
We'll do the mail out. Coach Danny Terrell at Gmail.
Okay, Mike Pryor. Coach, have you any contact or knowledge of Coach Jeff Berger?
Berger. No, I've heard the name, but I don't know him. No, sir.
Yeah,
You would like him. He's done a lot of work that would mesh with what you do. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
And then if you go to pikiti.com/pages/upcoming events,
There you
upcoming seminars.
Perfect.
But just go to pikiti.com or reach out to Coach Danny Renna's website. Just contact him directly, you know.
Yep.
Or
my email is Coach Danny Terrell at Gmail.
There you go. Coach Danny Terrell at gmail.com. Listen, that is the best way to get a hold of him. Yep. And I don't, not that I try to put, listen, you want as least amount of clicking to go through. You don't want to go to this, to go to this, to go to this. Reach out to Danny. He just gave it. Coach Danny Terrell at gmail.com. Reach out to him. He'll get you that information.
Yep, I'd love to have you.
And I tell you, next year, I'm going to come down.
One of the things that we're looking at adding next year is to have a guest instructor. We'd love to have other people come in, you know, because the more experience that we have with everything, the more experience you have, plain and simple. And the FMA community, as big as what it is, it's very, very small worldwide when you look at everything. There's enough there for all of us. And I think that sharing and to me, the relationships is what's important.
You know, here's the thing. We are a small community. If we round up to single digits versus percentiles, 1 out of every 100 martial artists out there, 1 out of every 100 people out there do martial arts, which means if you're in a room of 100 people, you are the one and 99 other people don't. Of that, 1% of them does Filipino martial arts, which means, wait for it, we're 1 in 10,000. Okay, there's plenty of room for around this globe for all of us, you know. And the thing is, we need to work together, not to steal each other's students, to share. And sometimes when I'm around other systems, they help me get better, not because they have something I don't in a martial material, because at the end of the day, there's only so many ways to swing a stick. It's more spice than it is difference. But sometimes in an art, someone describes the exact same thing you do using a different nomenclature. I was at the Maya Super Show, and Jared Wahangi was on the floor, and I took the floor. I trained. I was starting to talk to him, and he made a comment. I've never used it this way. I always talk about lining up the stick, and what he said is you line it up to your second set of knuckles. And I'm like, I've never heard that before. That's great. Is that a PT thing?
I don't know. I do the same thing. If you point your knuckles there, then your edge is there.
Yeah. So he just said there, look, your second set of, I've never heard the phrase second set of knuckles. I always said, okay, put your blade in your hand and there you go. These set of joints, but instead of saying joints, saying second set of knuckles, I think people would relate to that.
One of the things that I really enjoy now and over the past better than a decade now is with training with other people is seeing how they present information and how do they move their bodies, how do they present it, how do they describe what it is that they're doing, what terminologies are they using, because we all learn differently and we all have different perspectives, and I love the pedagogy, seeing how people teach.
That's interesting. You share. I know that Tuhan Jack has the same interest, so that makes sense that you guys talk.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So let's see. I once. Okay. What? I'm on list boy. Okay, but I'm gonna say all right. And too late, Renee. Ty and I already accepted that offer to go down there. So you can hold our stick bag.
Very good.
Or any other bag
there's
you want.
3 people I want to see in a conversation: is Renee, Jeff Berger, and Coach Danny, all talking some around.
Oh, here we go. The PTK thing is also known as the knuckle shuffle. Okay,
knuckle shuffle.
Never heard that. I mean, I heard
that term
from a WWE thing, but that's all good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is actually, I really enjoy our show because we get to talk to some like-minded individuals that are not uptight.
It's nice to be able to have a conversation with people and not worry about the people being offended about things that you say or do, because if you want to be offended, then that's on you. It's not on me. I don't go out and try to offend people, but this is life, guys. Yeah. And if we can't get along, FMA is going to die.
Exactly. Hey, listen. So let me ask you this. Oh, there we go. Hold on. So no KI guys in here. See, you just got to poke the bear. You got to poke the bear.
You're here.
Hey, so Paolo and I did a show the other day. So I just want a personal opinion. I know where he was coming from, and I agree and I disagree with what he. I kid. No, you don't. You're being serious. Who the hell are you kidding here? Do we want to do it? Do we really want to do it? Do I want to send one to him?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Hey,
It's been a while.
Paulo, if you want to man up, you can come on the show.
It's been a while, so yeah.
Yeah. But hey, while I got you on here, Coach Danny, Paulo and I did a show the other day about old school stick fighters versus today. I understand if you're talking MMA stick fighting, I'm down. I agree with him 100% that the old stick fighters wouldn't have that type of thing. But I'm still old school thinking that there's a lot of stuff that protective gear eliminates, like eye pokes and stuff of that nature. And you got a bunch of people who came, hey, Paulo, you've been challenged. Check your inbox. So you're saying no, you're not manning up. You're wussing out on us. Okay. And I did say a politically incorrect thing about manning. Actually, first you man up and then you woman up, because my girls are pretty damn tough. Yeah. But hey, do you have female fighters?
I have, yes.
They kick pretty hard, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
All my dads in the club are like,
and they're very aggressive.
Okay. Yeah, my guys are like, my dads are like, how come the girls kick harder than the boys? I'm like, I don't know, but I don't want to be on the end of that. So, and my mindset was, listen, we're talking the fight. I'm actually just thinking Remy. I don't care about all the other guys. I don't know of people that could take on Remy. I mean, even these new fighters, if you did no gear and you kept it in a stick fighting match, I think the old school guys have just as much ability to win, other than someone being out weight class, because obviously stick does, there's mass. What are your thoughts? Not doing the MMA stick fighting, because I agree. If you do MMA stick fighting, the new school fighters all day long.
It's gonna depend on who it is and how they train, and you know that as well as I do. Yeah. There are guys that are excellent instructors, but they're not fighters. There are guys who are very, very good fighters who are not very good instructors. So it's going to end up coming down to individuals. But as far as for generally overall, man, with the training that we can do today, other than being sneaky, sly, and deceptive, I don't know.
Well, my thing was that today's fighters, okay, as martial artists, because I brought up a photo.
Do you think people today are softer overall than people from before?
Yeah. Oh, here he comes. I want to get my word in before he does. But overall, I think today as a society, we're softer. I think we could find the small percentile, but I was talking about more or less how things were post-World War II. People were in that mindset. They defended their country against, life and death situations, where I don't know if today's people really have that visceral thing to hurt people, because being able to smash someone with no protective gear, there's a mindset. And I don't think it's not available, but I think if we think about those fighters versus people who train our Filipino martial arts today, I don't know if they're that same grit. But here we go. I'm going to let Paulo get his hand away from the screen there. Where he's showing off his ink. Okay, here we go. He's ready. Here we go. All right, from the snowy north, Toronto-ish area, also known as Canada and United States 51st state, Paulo Rubio.
Hey, Paulo.
Coach Danny, PG Thai, Datu Tim.
Hey there.
Hey, kumusta ka?
Okay lang, salamat.
There we go. See? Hey, I see you using the headlines now. Did you know that just popped up the other day, right?
What's that?
Well, we got your Instagram at Funker Tactical, like that's the new feature on.
Yeah.
And too bad FMA Discussion doesn't use StreamYard. They're still on.
I know he's on the Be Live nonsense.
Yeah, very much nonsense. But
sorry, I was listening into what you guys were saying, so I'm thanks for the invite, but
we haven't had you in a while.
That's all right.
Since it came up, I'm thinking one of the things that when I was listening to you and Paulo, and then it came up today, one of the things that strikes me is that there's a little bit of apples and oranges, right? We always think about an exception or something that jumps out of our mind. So maybe we think Remy, that's great. No, we know that, you know, he's a tough old dude. So it's hard for us to imagine, but that's not, Remy isn't everybody back then.
No,
Right.
Just
No,
like
and that's
the
and
best
that's what I
fighters
like.
nowadays are not everybody today. So
Right.
how do you reconcile that when you have this
You have to
discussion?
look at Remy when he was at his peak
Mhm.
versus Remy today. You know, if he was still alive today,
Oh,
would
he
you?
couldn't do it today because
No, of course not. You
he'd
know,
be he's the
I
same
can't
age as
do it.
Inosanto, so that would be like 84, 85.
Yeah, I mean, I can't do what I did when I was 20, 25 years old by any means. My timing's much better, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to, you know, I explained this to someone just recently. I have people who train with me who respect me so much that they will not try to hit me.
Yeah,
Because
you're in their head.
Right. So, and I can use that against them. Then I have those who respect me so much that they will hit me because I asked them to hit me. Yes, let's do it. And I love that. That's fantastic. And then I have fighters who prove to me, you can't hang with us.
Yeah.
And that's a fact.
Mm.
You know, when I was 35 years old, yeah. I'm 68. No.
Yeah, open hand combatives, hands down. I mean, the athleticism. I think when you throw a weapon in, depending on what the weapon is and stuff, it's going to change things up there.
Sure.
And like I said, you know, like when Paul and I were talking the other day, I really ultimately, I'm only thinking one guy. I mean, because we talked about it. Anshan Khan was in stick fights, and he killed 2 people, which is not bragging, but he also did time both times. And everyone talks about the death matches and everyone's killing people left and right. Like, well, then you all be in prison. I mean, because you know, but to be honest, there's only one person I think about, and that's Remy, because I know what he did to me, and I was fighting all the time, you know. So, but then again, it goes back to the story that Bobby Tablata talks. He goes to his first teacher, who smokes him every single time because he's been feeding him like a baby ever since the beginning. And we know our students' moves so much better than anyone else. We can stop them. And if we didn't have that factor, that might be a little different. But
Tim, that's also individuals. There's 2 individuals that you talked about versus as a whole.
Yeah.
Something. How many more people are actually training in Filipino martial arts today compared to what it was 50 years ago?
That's a good
Or
question.
10 years ago.
Well, let's say, Apollo, what do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think you're talking to a lot of people now?
Mhm.
Do you think? Okay, so I guess the question, because of all the people you talk to, how many do you think are doing it? Do you think FMA has gotten more popular as a whole? And in that subculture, what percentage do you think it's a greater, same, or smaller percentage that trains it on a serious level of, hey, let's see, like pressure testing, let's see what works, not for sport, but to find out what works with obviously some limitations
because
we don't want to kill each other?
Well, I'll share with you a perspective that I gather from being around some of the top level tactical professionals in the United States. I'm talking about high level instructors with with huge followings, people like, for example, Craig Douglas, right? He doesn't teach Filipino martial arts, but he learned Filipino martial arts. Tony Sentman at Real World Tactical. The thing about what happens is that so many of these tactical professionals at one point get exposed to Filipino martial arts. They love it. They see the value of it. And then they drop off because the nature of continuing education in Filipino martial arts is what's the next technique? How else can we make this elaborate? And we lose so many of these people because what they want to do is to continue to train the fundamentals, to challenge those fundamentals, and to find ways to pressure test and spar that's relevant to what they actually have to go through. And so there's a lot more Filipino martial arts floating around out there. I spoke with Coach Greg Nelson. The guy is head coach of 4 UFC champions. He trains Rose Namajunas on Hubad before her fights. And he masks Filipino martial arts concepts to people that wouldn't otherwise want to digest it, because maybe they got a bad taste in their mouth, and maybe some of the practices relating to the totality of the art doesn't, or because I think it's all valuable, right? Like, I think it's all valuable, but it's how it's presented. And so when you're sort of like insulated and you have a singular goal and you're not student centric, you lose these people. And it's part of the reason why, like Coach Danny, like he does, you know, combat submission wrestling, Jeet Kune Do, and Wing Chun, and boxing, and Muay Thai. He's able to Trojan horse, for lack of a better term, Filipino martial arts concepts to serve particular individuals and their goals. I think that is friggin' amazing, you know. So, but I do think more people are training Filipino martial arts today than there ever has been, for sure.
It is rough when the people who are teaching, and a lot of times it's rough because did you learn the art or are you regurgitating the art? And a lot of times we don't own it. I mean, I was blessed and hindered all at the same time. And one of the things that was good for me was that my instructor that I started with and I had a falling out shortly before he closed his school, and I was left on my own to finish all my training. And I would see Remy in seminars, and I didn't have a guy ever overtop me saying I can't do this. So my mindset is, why can't we? So no one told me not to go to tournaments. No one told me not to go to somebody else's seminar. And then people would look at me weird at the camps. Well, why did you go over there? Well, you're training with Remy. Why would you not? I go, Remy traveled the Philippines to do all these different styles and make his own system. And I don't have access to him on a day-to-day basis, but I do have a lot of these other systems that may have been some of the systems that influenced what he was doing. And I want to go back to the roots. I want to go to our fundamentals to see where things came from. And one of the things that Remy did is he got me into doing Balintawak with Ted Buat. So I could do the R&D work with and for him to bring the more Balintawak to the system. Because the first thing I see Remy is like, what did Ted teach you? I'm like, hey, Professor, how you doing? What did Ted show you? Oh, nice to see you too. Oh, no, Tim, give me a hug. Okay, what did Ted show you? So, because he wanted to get back into the roots, but he didn't have that means. So I and several other students he opened that door for. But they never took their FMA training wheels off. By the way, I'm quoting Tuhan Bill on that one. He was the one that said it. I thought it was the best line in the world. And so they're doing the art as a secondary or tertiary system. So they never got to the point where I was at and doing more of the fundamentals because they were just trying to learn the art.
They're stuck in the drills. They just
stuck in the drill. Well, that's it. If you think your drills are end all be all, and you know, like we do all these drills too. We're not doing anything. Sure. No one's doing stuff that we're not doing. But the thing here is what I make a point of doing is say, this is okay. If it's a drill, it's about skill development. It's not about practical application. There are a bunch of Ty, how do you say about our drills? They're micro applications.
I can't remember now, but
we were talking about like our drills are a bunch of micro reference points of material, but we're skipping. We're not doing the finish, and that's what sometimes. And some of the people, if they had a good instructor, when they're looking at the drill we're doing, they're going, hey, what are you trying to work there? Versus others saying, well, why aren't you doing the reversal here? Because it's a drill. We're not trying to defeat each other. When you're doing a Sinwali, you're not trying to finish it. And Sombratas or Hubud, you're not finishing it because, I mean, you could and should in some cases, but not every beat, because then you don't get that attribute, like, pushing hands. Yeah. It's supposed to keep going if you're doing it right.
Yeah, but if you don't deviate from it,
right,
and try to actually make an entry or do a hit or do a takedown, you have to attack at some point in time.
Oh, yeah.
You have to change the attack.
But every move can't be that way.
That's
when we got to make sure that balance of doing it, and so we flow with the drill. And then, I mean, like I always tell people, listen, sooner or later you got to put a finish in. Why? Any game worth playing is worth winning. So I'm not training to be an equal. I'm training to win. So I'm looking for all these places where I would do it, but at the same token.
Well, and then you look at take Hubud. You're doing a 3-count drill. Ba 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 back and forth. Well, can you enter on the first beat? Can you enter on the second beat? Can you enter on the third beat? You have to do those kinds of things. And people don't do it. And so when I start playing and touch hands with somebody that's really good at drilling, the moment I feel them, I know that, hey, you're a great driller and we can drill this all day long. But the moment I change it, you're stuck because you've never done it. And,
well, then they're not a great driller if that's the case. But yeah,
there you go. So Dexter said GM was left-handed too. Oh my goodness! And of course, our favorite friend here, Strike Hard, No Mercy. He's having his Cobra Kai flashbacks.
That's right.
Early flight home. Need to get back some sleep here. Nice to learn more about Coach Danny, but good night all. Where was she logging in from?
Where's Kara?
Kara. Where she was on a trip like some South America or something.
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah.
That was last week, right?
Thanks for that.
So, this is good. This is good. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, when you do a drill, you can't just do like when I'm doing my Sinwalis as an example. I mean, it's a striking drill, but I also like using it for blocking drills. I like it doing it from different things and seeing how we can apply that motion to other entries if possible. I do pad drills off of our Sinwalis with which Paulo has had the opportunity to do a class with or virtual class and audit one of my seminars. And, so I like tearing things apart. Yeah. But there is that thing that the drill is also about, like doing wind sprints or jumping rope. It's building an attribute.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about some of these.
Go ahead, Paulo. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention because, we all share at different rates, of course, on social media. And one of my pet peeves as far as commentary goes when I'm showing a drill is somebody will interject with a comment like, well, why don't you do a headbutt there? Or why don't you grab him? Or why did you stop instead of moving forward? Mm-hmm. And I've answered it so many times. It's because we're working a particular drill and a particular skill set within that drill. The thing about Filipino martial arts drill, all the good ones, you can do anything. Like Coach Danny, you can use hubad as a catalyst to teach a double leg takedown. No doubt about it, right? So we can do everything from these frameworks.
Sure.
And then the commentary is like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And I'm beginning to use it as an inspiration now. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to use this very same drill that you just saw to do the thing that you think that we can do, because we can do anything off of hubad. We can do anything off of Sembrada and Sabayan. And I don't know too many modern Arnis drills, but I'm sure you can do everything off of it. Anyway, that's just what I want. It's just a pet peeve of mine, because I just released a video of a simple progression for knife jabbing. And, a comment was like, well, I would do this. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the problem here is people forget that when we're doing these things, a video that we put up there is a snapshot. It is a small look at what we're doing. And, like I said, when I watch someone do a drill, the first thing I do is, okay, what is the attribute it's working on? And I want to try to do it exactly verbatim the way the person's doing it. Then later I go, okay, well, could I use it and morph it into what I'm doing and blah, blah, blah. And then eventually like, okay, now how can I screw this shit up? Because one of the things that we do when we get together, like Ty and I, we talk about, let's do the drill, let's do the exercise. And then I'm going to try to screw your shit up. So if someone does try to screw your shit up, we've got it covered. I won't say the source, but I got it through one of my guys that someone was working with me and they really decided to go for it and come after me. And I just did whatever, and I'm like, well, that's pretty sad. I go, and the guy's, yeah, how dare he do that to you? I go, no, I'm okay with that. Well, what's the sad part? Because there was such a difference in ability that I didn't even realize he was making a run at me. That I just kept going. Like, all right, well, whatever. I'm like, when did this happen? Are you sure this happened? Yeah, he went. What did I do? Allegedly, I just switched hands. Really?
One of the things I think people have problem with doing drills is that they don't have a goal in mind in doing the drill. They drill for the sake of drilling, and there should be a goal. There should be a skill development, or there should be a cadence development, so that you learn a reference point to be able to switch and go to something else. And people get stuck in these drills and they're great drillers. But the minute someone does something different, it's like, oh, what do I do?
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, because that just shows they don't know the art. They don't know what they're doing with it.
I think with those, you should also be looking for what other things you can get out of the drill. One of the things I found out, one of the drills I used to love, is super basic. It's a Kung Fu drill, so I won't get into it. But I found out that it was much better for another purpose altogether that I didn't even realize that I was doing. But the feedback was such that it was developing a whole other set of attributes that was, oh my gosh. And then I started using that to teach other people that weren't used to it, and it helped them. So I was able to short circuit a little bit.
What can you make it? Well, I mean, there you go. There's a perfect example. You got to make it your own. And like Remy used to do this, and we do single Sinwali, which is a high and a low, a high and a low. And we would do it in the airports. So it was just a 2-count high, inward forehand, low hand, backhand, and So we would do this in the airports, but we didn't have magazines and newspapers to do it with. So we would do this slappy thing and play patty cake, which was pretty interesting. And then
high five, low five.
High five, low five. But what he started doing this, it became a whole series of material to train when you didn't have sticks. And then it became its own entity where he would do this and you'd grab locks and controls. And people were like, well, you wouldn't fight that way. I go, it's not about fighting. You slap high and low with your hands. You have a fraction of a second to capture and control and take into. And I love that attribute, Joe. And we still do it. It's kind of went to the side why we want to put it off to the side for a little bit and brought it back in, because I also wanted to figure out what drills were working the same stuff if there was too much overlap. And now I also have a different, I wrap my head around a little differently. It's like, all right, here now I can explain better, because a lot of times I knew what I was doing, but I couldn't always put it in the best terms. And like when we do our modern, so our follow through strikes, if it comes from the right side of our body, our right foot's in front. If it comes from the left, our left foot's in front. And Dr. G with the Bondo asked me, hey, why do you do that? And I said, well, it's better body mechanics, blah, blah, blah. He goes, that's okay. You know why we do it, Tim? No, please share. And he goes, it's a safety striker cut. I'm like, safety striker cut? I go, yeah, we're clearing the path for the weapon to travel. And it's like, oh my God, that just changed everything.
Move my head out the way.
Yeah, like, oh my God. So now I just say, so you don't hit your leg. Look, that makes so much. Now I got 8-year-olds that can tell me, hey, why do we step this way? So we don't hit ourselves. And I apply it to our locks and throws. And I go, what are we doing this? So the body has a clear path to fall. I'm like, okay. And, but a lot of times I'm just doing things, and it takes that doing your work and listening to others that opens up other possibilities.
Read, there's a comment by Pizza there that might be good. I thought it was cute. I don't know.
Okay, here we go.
For folks.
So drills build skills, but the skills need to be tested, not rested. Yeah. Oh, I like that one. Hey,
I like that.
All right, Pizza, we love you on that one. And then, okay, here we go. And my favorite drill is Black and Decker. All right. And then, of course, he had to ruin it there. So Mr. Wolf from Ohio says, sorry, hey, no problem. Yeah, so we gotta have Fart in the Wind Pizza, or whatever the hell his name is, Moldy Cheese. Gotta be on the show, but he likes being like the masked comic here.
Hey guys, I got a question for all three of you.
Okay.
And then I gotta
32.
Go. Sure.
Wow, that many. Okay, so in 2 weeks, I'm going to begin teaching in a gym.
Oh,
and yeah, by request, I really wanted to train boxers, and because it's a boxing, Muay Thai, and Jiu-Jitsu academy. And I want to. They put me Saturday at 1 p.m. right after the Muay Thai class. I've sort of made the request that I want to get people good very quickly. And so if you were in my position teaching for the very first time in what could be 5 to 20 people, I really don't know what I'm going to be walking into. There is no knife curriculum. There's no weapons training there. It's a mixed bag of people fighting semi-professionally, hobbyists, people who are there for exercise. What drill would you start them off with? So 1, they see where this can go. 2, they can have enough of a good time that they get interested. And 3, they don't get completely scared off. So I'll leave that question to you guys.
They're Thai fighters already, Thai fighters and boxers already.
Thai fighters, boxers, and jiu-jitsu guys. But it's off the heels of a pretty big Muay Thai class.
I would give them reverse angle footwork, and I would let them use the skills that they already have to start with.
What do you mean reverse angle? Like a switch step?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
With what?
With jabs and rear straights.
Like a switch jab?
Yes. I would use stuff that they already have
Mm-hmm.
and develop off of that. And then once you have captivated, then you can start molding them in different areas that you want to mold them. But instead of trying to give them something that's totally different from what they've ever done, I would use, and that's what I normally do with people who come in who already have experience. What do you have experience in? Let me see you move. I'll work with you with what you have, and then start developing from there. That's.
Would you put a knife in their hand right away while doing the switch step?
I think that's up to you and the individual. That's your read on them.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to come across as wanting to teach them Muay Thai.
Right.
Because I don't know. I'm very terrible. I'm not great at it. I'm not very good at it.
No, I wouldn't be teaching them Muay Thai, but you know how to box.
Yeah. Okay.
So you understand that. So that it's the mechanics that you're using that they're already familiar with.
Okay.
And so instead of trying to give them something totally different, that's what I would do. I would give them something that they've already have and they already know how to use and help develop them off of that. But the footwork's going to be different because the blade's there.
Right.
And so how comfortable do you feel with teaching someone a blade that you don't know? That's up to you.
Right.
Okay. That's up to
Sure. Yeah.
Ty?
Maybe a stick man. Yeah.
What do you got, Ty?
Something. I mean, it's almost the same, along the same lines. So one of the, I like to get people. So I've trained some boxer folks who sort of had tried different things, and some things worked and some things didn't. But I had the most success and it depends on the individual, with doing things that it leverages what they're already doing, what they already know, but in ways they weren't expecting. And
right.
They get aha moments, and people love those, right? And so then that gets them hooked. So, and then part of that is your sensitivity and their response as you read that as an instructor, right? And you play with them and
right.
Suss it right out of them, right? So that's the hook, right? And then what you do with that hook, I think, is up to you and them.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to teach him Sabayan right off the gate. And have
how did I know that?
Yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, I've been studying teachers for such a long time, and there's so many great strategies to approach, these environments. I'm just trying to find my way, That's you got an idea?
Yeah, you're gonna have to research it for yourself, by being there and doing it with them, and that's you're gonna learn from them. But if you try to, I think, because you have, for the most part, people that are already have some muscle memory programmed into them, that it would be easier to work with what they already know, like Ty said, giving them something that they don't know within those same motions.
Right.
Because it's already programmed into them, instead of trying to break something completely different. The biggest thing I find with people who come in, they start grabbing. Instead of trying to flow, they're grabbing instead of parrying. And so that ends up tying up the flow. So let them be able to move with what they already have and then slowly incorporate other aspects into it. That's the way I would do it.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it.
So, what I would actually probably start with a blade. So when I do blade work, I do two things. One of which is to enhance open hand combatives or to teach principles of movement. So first of all, you're going to have it rough because you got fighters, and the fighters are going to think about what works in the ring, and they're not going to talk about what works in reality. So that's a huge challenge that you're going to have to overcome. So what I would look at, depending on how many training knives you're going to have,
I got a whole box. Cert Next Level Training sent me a whole bunch of them.
Okay.
Like
So
30.
I would do a little of our stick boxing and our blade boxing. So what I do is, I've done some. So I've taught at the symposium and some other events. So what I would do, when I'm working with boxers that have trained it, I actually try to relate to what they already know, like Danny was talking about. So what I would do is say, all right, you know, and I'm going to do it right hand because my microphone's here. Instead of throwing a jab, I throw a jab like a poke. And then I'll throw hooks and uppercuts. And it's not about using the knife. It's showing on how they could utilize what they already have in different things. Now, obviously, so the way I was taught, I'm not commenting on what's the best method, but I was my boxing, what I have in boxing, it was always laces in. I don't hook punch this way. I hook punch this way. I'm not going to get into what's better, but if we're demonstrating things instead of punching this way, hey, here is that knife. So a lot of times what I do is when I'm teaching elbows to my people, I'll put a knife in their hand and go, make it cut like a knife. Because a lot of times people have a tendency when they do an elbow, it's like karate, they stop. Mm-hmm. They stop at the target. They don't cut the way through. So a lot of times, like when we would do a destruction, I might do a elbow hammer fist. I would cut through and then stab afterwards. So I would use those kind of movements not to teach knife fighting, but to teach the relationship between weapon movement there. The other thing I do is my stick boxing, maybe, where I would do 1, 2, and cross. But the problem you're going to deal with fighters is they're going to fight traditional and weapon fighters. We fight southpaw, for lack of a better term. I mean, it's not southpaw, but as far as what they're used to, all the weapon training is going to be southpaw for them. So you've got to challenge, and the big thing is you got to win them over, and you got to talk to them, say, listen, you know, like if you're doing limb destructions, not a bad idea, but you got to address the elephant in the room. The shit's not going to work wearing gloves. You know, now, but if you sit there and say, now listen, this motion, okay, let's say a back fist destruction, what people call the gunting there, which I hate because there's no scissoring action, but that's another pet peeve. Say, hey, listen, now I've got my force multiplier. You see how I got my little jabs in at the rest of the Filipino martial art industry? Actually, it's not Filipino martial arts. It's the JKD people because they don't know what they're talking about. But anyways, when I deflect that strike and now I'm doing my back fist destruction, it becomes an insert with my force multiplier, my pen. Because you're in Canada, you can't have knives up there. Who the hell are you kidding? We don't allow knives in our 51st state. Once you become the 51st state officially, then we'll allow you to have knives and guns. But until that happens,
well, you know, we can carry knives. We just can't conceal them, and there's no size limit.
Hey, is it a gym I know, by the way?
I don't know.
It's on Joey's, is it?
No, it's right across the street. I wouldn't teach anywhere where I have to drive. It's like literally
okay, all right.
5 minutes from here.
The BJJ guys, they don't have any clue, so it's okay. You know, because they don't have striking. So anything that gets them the hand, because you can always sit there and listen. We're trying to increase. Here's the other option. We're trying to increase the proficiency of your hands. Like I had an opportunity to teach the members of the Buffalo Bills, but the gym I was teaching out of closed in the middle of the night. But Hanson, this is back when they were going to the Super Bowl all the time. I did an interview with him. We're talking about all this stuff. He goes, I'm doing trapping our who bud. And they're like, I don't want to kill the guy. I go, no, but here, you know, I'm showing all the things that we can do. Like as the hand comes in, I can do this deflection and get by him, you know. Oh, okay, got it. And then you can also get that elbow in there when they're not looking. So that's another story. But the thing here is once I related it to something that, because, you know, Hanson's hands wouldn't come back up fast enough. So I say, oh, this is a weapon drill and open hand drill to get our hands back in position. So if you can tie it in and say, listen, you guys don't have hands. I mean, okay, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, when you're doing the sport of this, you're not utilizing your hands in this way. So I'm going to add a level of dexterity that may not be already trained there. So if you look skill development first, and then use this and just talk about the failings of what we're doing. It's not going to work with gloves on. It's not going to work in this situation. It's
right.
But we're also talking about what you do in the street. What, you know, because Muay Thai is good, but not against the blade. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is good. Once again, you know,
they're both good against the blade, I think.
Yep.
Anyway, that's
if it's done right. If it's done right,
right. Yes.
Yeah.
But most people are ham and eggers.
The two ideas that I had that I was playing around with. By the way, thank you for that, all three of you. Pretty much saying the same thing, which is
in our script.
Yeah. So the two ideas that I had to start was, by the way, I was gonna call my system because I can't call it Pikiti Tersha. I can't teach Pikiti Tersha.
Why not?
Because I suck at it.
I-
I'm not good. I don't know.
Well, and listen, I mean, well, so does everyone else who does bikini, but who cares? But anyway.
Tell them where it came from. That's all.
I will definitely do that.
That's all. That's yeah.
I want to share with you for the first time what I'm thinking about calling it. But first, the two ideas that I had was one, I wanted them to know that they had something in them already worth developing and refining. So I was going to put a blade in their hand or a stick. And I was just going to do the whole move around like you were shadow boxing. But I want you to spell your name with this thing. And then they'll be like, holy crap. But first, the baseline would be like, hey, everybody grab a knife or a stick. I think it's going to be a knife. Move around and shadow box. And then they're all going to experience that awkwardness.
Right.
And then I'm going to give them that directive. Like, hey, do what you would normally do, but spell something. It'll just focus something that you already know into an objective. And then from there, I'd be like, okay, now we're all going to spell the same word together. Everybody line up so that they can immediately see that, holy crap.
Like
We saw something that was already in us. He just extracted it. And we did it as a group, which develops that
magic
sort of
trick.
community. It's a little bit of a magic trick.
How much
then
time do you have?
I have an hour. I mean, this is the first 10 minutes after my little.
You
30
know,
seconds.
you might want to not give them a choice. You might want to sit there and say, hey, listen, let's all spell the letter A together. Let's all spell the letter B together. And then let's start freestyling from them, because you want them to feel good right from the beginning. If they're you want to overcome objection by making them feel good, not by making them feel like spazzes.
Right. Well, that was going to be a quick turnaround, right? That was going to be like, first, I want them to
They are
experience
Canadian, so who cares?
Or have them spell their names, because if they know their name, spell their name.
Exactly that.
That was something that Leo did many years ago at a tournament that he had gone to. There was point scoring or whatever that was going on is the story, and there was a young girl that was there, or he made the comment that I could take anybody and within 15 minutes have them beat you with just 15 minutes of time on them. And they selected this young girl that was 10 years old, 12 years old, and he went in the back and gave her a knife and said, spell your name, and just had her work spelling her name, and walked out there and had a training knife and destroyed all these guys because just spelling her name. Yeah, so that's one of the Leo stories from Tuan Bill, but they know their name already, so they know they should be able to spell their name. Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to go with. I want to give a quick shout out to Tuhan Apollo Ladra, even though that's every bikini guy knows this story and this idea. He was the first one to bring it in my trajectory, so shout out to him. The other thing that I was going to do, because there's a mixed bag of people who compete and people who don't. And so what I wanted to illuminate to them is that with a knife, everyone's on the same playing field, more or less. So I was going to get them to just do hand hunting right off the bat. Just do a hand hunting drill. So that way you'll see these guys who just develop attributes and never had the courage to fight, cutting hands of people who are about to fight for titles. So I think that might be these knives. These knives in particular.
Oh, they are okay. I don't. Okay, now they're foam. Yeah, that'd be great. All right, here we go. You're a teacher.
Just be careful with those because you'll draw blood with them.
Yeah,
we got. Matter of fact, I got some that you had recommended, so we got a couple of them, and we put them to a test right away, and everybody walked out with blood.
And if they got hand wraps, there you go. You got, they're already on. With other people's students with bad habits, let me see here. They may hit the bag, but they can hold the stick. All right, okay. Ray Finkel always told me, laces out, Dan. Okay. Wearing a bathing suit. I call. Okay, too much information. There's my. Yep. Spell your name. I love it.
GM Bobby Tabata, of course, says that to his folks too, as far as when he's working people to flow, is spell something, write some letters, do your alphabet, say your name.
Yeah, it's a common thing I see in FMA. I think the first person I don't know if it was Guru Dan or Paul Vunak, one of the two of them I saw on a video somewhere doing that, and it's a common theme,
It's that comfort zone that you can tap into and then apply in different ways.
Yeah. Hey, listen, thank you guys very much for the advice. I'm gonna tap out for now and just be a viewer.
All right, brother.
But thank you so much. I appreciate you guys.
All right,
Let's get
catch you later, my
together,
friend.
Paulo.
What's up?
Let's get together.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'd love to have a chat with you shortly.
Well,
Thank you, guys.
All right, man. Good night.
Okay, so that was good.
was nice.
It's always nice to have different people pop in.
Yeah.
We haven't done that for a while too, so that's good.
Yeah. Okay, so spell
Kill.
kill.
Yeah.
It's a word. Or is it keel? Oh, that's a different
Yeah.
show.
That was Leo's had the double L theory. Said, I'll take your key and kill you. The double L. I'll take your chi and add and chill you.
You didn't just change your name again, did you? I don't know. No, probably not. No, it's got to be. It's got to be a different guy. You never tell with him. You just one moment he's one thing, and next moment he's like a chameleon. Well, listen, Danny, is there any? Do you have anything else you want to promote while you're here? Got any seminars coming up besides your camp? You're welcome, Paulo.
Yep. I always have things going on. I don't have anything specific right now. We're getting ready to. I'm waiting on my wife. It's going to be her trip. We're supposed to be heading toward Florida. She hasn't told me where we're going or particularly when we're going. So I'm kind of waiting on that. I do have a couple of people that one group in Tallahassee that's interested in me coming in as we pass through.
Nice.
So as soon as we have that, I'll have information on it. But until then, and then I do Zoom classes. Thank you, Ken. I do a Pikiti Zoom class on Sunday mornings, 9 p.m. Central Time, an hour and a half.
Wow.
You can always drop in on those, or if you're interested, I prefer you to do the class, but if you can't do it, you can always sign up for it, and we record them all, and I'll send you the recording to it.
Nice.
So
Now, what are you charging on those?
Pardon me?
What are you charging on those?
For PTI members, it's $20. For non-members, $30.
Okay, there you go. All right. And then, of course, the nice thing about Coach Danny's always, well, a lot of times he's making comments on from live on the show, so it's always good. We'll always keep hearing what's going on, and you never know when we're going to have him just pop on the show just in the middle. I mean, we have Paulo on. If we have Paulo on, we got to have everybody on.
All right, there you go. Yeah, I'd like to make more of them. It's just usually if I'm in town, I'm teaching at this time.
Yeah.
So that
we usually chime in like halfway through, so it's always good. We can always always get an update while things are going.
It's always enjoyable, and it's nice talking with people about the martial arts, because I guess I am a martial arts geek, but more like a freak.
A lot of that going around.
And I enjoy you guys are great, and to me, it's all about relationships. The better the relationship, the more Filipino martial arts is going to grow, the more martial arts is going to grow. And first and foremost, we're martial artists.
Well, and that's it. Relationship, like, this show was me all at the beginning. It was just me. And then I said, "Hey, Ty, I'd like to have you on the show." And he's like, "Well, okay," because he didn't want to be stuck with me. But like, well, don't be afraid to change things up. I'm like, no. I want, and we've gotten a good following. I think we don't have the views, say, of FMA Discussion has per show, but I think it's the quality of the views. People see what we're doing, and it's the right people who have the proper interest. Back in the day when they used to do mail advertising, when you paid for a list, the more specific the people, the more you paid for it. More targeted advertising.
I thought you were talking about the other mail advertising. No,
I'm not advertising us as males like the Chippendale thing. That we can't talk about those. Although when I was on Paulo's, he said, "Man, you're on everything. Are you on? I have an OnlyFans page." I had to plead the fifth on that one.
Right.
Let me
ask you this, Tim. From the FMA Talk forum that you used to run.
Oh yeah.
To this, which do you find is the greater amount of information that you can get out, and how much better are people civilly?
I think that this is so I think this is a better forum, because here's my problem. I'm dyslexic. or actually it could be dyslexia and my eyes don't line up properly. Like when I blink my eyes left to right, not only does it shifts in height. So that my doctor thought that maybe I had some blunt force trauma, or like, and it was like nothing martial art wise. I think I know what happened or when it happened. I got my head rammed into the side of a metal door frame when we were all running in the gym at the same time. But when we talk on the show, I know I'm a little polarizing at times, but people can hear the sincerity. Like, listen, there's going to be knuckleheads that don't like what we say, and there's people that knuckleheads that will cry foul about what we say. I mean, hell, here's a good one. Ty did a video on modern Arnis. He's got his modern Arnis. What was the what's the series you call it again? Because you have two different things. You have your Jots and your
the Jots, and then the
Basics, maybe.
Oh, modern Arnis Basics, yeah.
So he did his modern Arnis. I think it was the modern Arnis Basic. And a guy from the Philippines says, "How dare you modernize the art?" Hey, moron! The art's called modern Arnis, and you know who did that? Remy Praces. that was the downfall of modern Arnis. In the Philippines, putting an American word or an English word, not American, an English word made it sexy. Call it Filipino karate because karate was all they. In the States, we're all snobs. Yeah. We like our shit all foreign. If it's a foreign thing, we want it foreign. Jeet Kune Do is a great name. Grandmaster Ernesto Combatan's a great name. I don't like Grandmaster Roberto's because it's a mouthful and people hear it wrong. Henigaran, which is the hometown, which could go sideways. Arnis Tamano. So a lot of times I just say Arnis Tamano because it's easier to keep me out of trouble. But when you say modern Arnis, I mean that's why I go Praces Arnis. But actually going to be next week's show. What's in a name? But I think Remy went for branding that helped him. But he outgrew the branding. It became Remy Prace. Like, okay, listen, it's not Jeet Kune Do. It's Danny Nasano. Let's really talk what it is. When he shows up, people go to see him. Jeet Kune Do is a great program for what it works. But when you go to see a seminar, you're going to see Danny Nasano. I didn't care about Danny Nasano. I cared about Jeet Kune Do. And Danny Nasano's the guy I saw, and I liked what he's doing. I didn't like the stopwatch training methodology because Remy would take an hour on one technique if that's what it took. And we all felt good about it. But the thing here is Remy became bigger than the art, where people went to see Remy Praces. People went to see Wally J. People went to see Danny Inosanto. Okay, then there's other people that went, okay, you go for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's no longer about the Gracies anymore. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is bigger than the Gracies.
Yes.
But at one time, the Gracies were bigger than BJJ.
Yes.
But they did their work, and they made the art even bigger. I think that's a great example of how the art can become bigger than the people. So,
it should. If the art is good and it's being propagated properly, it should be bigger.
Yeah. Unfortunately, with Remy gone, we took a big hit because there also wasn't dedicated schools. I'm really dreading the moment that we lose people like Danny Inosanto and Bobby Tawada and fill in the blanks for all those guys that are doing this. But at least in Danny Inosanto's situation, there are dedicated Jeet Kune Do schools.
Yes.
There are no dedicated Balintawak schools. So I see them having the same problem we have in modern.
Yeah, it's going to die out.
Yeah. I mean, and the good thing about, you look at Bikini, okay, went in all a bunch of different directions because people don't, we're not going to go down that path. Well, but they all kept the name.
Yes.
And they're stronger because of it.
Bikini is more than Leo Gahe.
Exactly. Listen.
It's because of his doing. It's what he did.
I listen to everybody because the good thing is I get along with so many people other than the modernist people that I don't like. But I mean, you get, because I'm the outsider, so I get to hear things and all the different factions.
Right.
Okay, listen. Leo didn't create the art; he inherited from his uncle. Okay. At the end of the day, all the people I've talked to said Pikiti wouldn't be what it is today without Leo Guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Whether they have a good relationship or not,
right.
He is the one that brought it to where it is today. Now, it's the success. The students are taking it to the next level.
Yes.
I mean, he is slowly but surely becoming less and less relevant, and the art is becoming more relevant. It's almost like he's handing the reins to the art over to the art, and that's a good thing.
Yes, it is. There's some other things political wise that, and I don't want to get into all of that because of what he's done.
Yeah.
But the people that he has made and those organizations that have developed because of them are strong.
Oh yeah,
and they're very, very good. There's going to be some chaos that's going to happen whenever he passes.
Yeah,
but the different organizations are going to continue.
Okay, so here we go. Matt Jones said, okay, well, actually, for the fair warning says, great job, guys. Matt Jones, what system of Kung Fu does Ty teach, sir?
Quick answer, Northern Shaolin, Northern Praying Mantis. Go to kungfu.cc and there's some background. But anyway, it's a branch off of Plum Flower Praying Mantis.
Advertising male pills. Let's not go down that way.
There you go.
See, very true. Okay. People need rattan therapy. It's A there, but that's okay. I talk about that all the time. And
hey,
always late, but always welcome, Eric. Eric actually used to have filled in for Ty when Ty got stuck doing something and stuff. No, this is good. Coach Danny, if you want to be on the show again, we'd love to have you. This is a great talk. I mean, and even if it's more of a like, hey, a show's going on and like, hey, you want to log in for a few minutes like Paulo did? Because we love these. You know, that's why I like the show. So get long story short, this platform is more satisfying. Initially, FMA Talk I thought was a really good thing, and I really loved it because it gave a platform before Facebook for all different styles. The drama got too much because too many people, unfortunately, listen, no one grew up with netiquette. They had to learn netiquette, which is internet etiquette for those who don't know what I'm talking about. And if you don't know what netiquette is, maybe you should read a book and find out, The problem here is just because we can say something doesn't mean we should. And that means, but I think that was more impactful for the community. It was FMA Talk. It was the voice. It was the largest FMA discussion group on the internet at the time. Facebook has taken over and helped us in many ways. The only downside, the problem with these new platforms is that you can't research. What made FMA Talk different than all today's social media is that we had all of this stuff categorized by topics. You had a search engine so you could look different things up. Hey, Adam, how you doing? So I think it was a better platform for documenting stuff and talking. The problem here is, and part of it was my own fault. I just need to man up and say, I don't like you, go away, boom. And I didn't. And like I did. Unfortunately, Leo Gahe didn't understand netiquette. People were threatening to shoot each other. I had to shut that shit down. And then I didn't kick him off the internet, although that's what people told me. I kicked him off of FMA Talk.
Yeah.
And then people wanted, I had a guy wanted to fight me to get him back on. I'm like, well, what's it worth to me? He's already off. Now come with like 5-10K, I'll fight you. And then he's still going to be off. But if you want to fight me, that's the price. Because Reb used to say, I will fight you, but you must bring $10,000.
Yeah.
Well, what if I win? Well, I still get 10,000. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, it just makes no sense. And the thing here is, the problem with the FMA industry, at least in the 90s and early 2000s, all these guys, I mean, there was like all these wannabe Lapu Lapu warriors. I mean, like you're from Jersey, you're a white guy from Jersey, you're not Filipino, you're not even close, you're Polish. Shut up. Stop with this stuff. And you've disgraced this. I mean, you're a moron. Yeah. What are your teachers teaching you?
Oh yeah, what level are you on? Yeah, you're still a white belt, man.
What flavor Kool-Aid have you been drinking?
Yeah.
They're in a movie.
That was the thing that I saw a lot of it. I mean, I went and I wrote on it quite a bit, but it was in short spurts because I got tired of it very, very quickly.
So here we go. Martial Talk may fall in the same problem. Text message, written, no tone. Oh, see, well, I was the co-founder of Martial Talk. So Bob Hubbard and myself were the ones that built it. He built it. I popularized it. So it was all Kempo and our niece at the beginning because those are all the people I knew. Every time I did a seminar, more followers popped on the threads, And then we spun off Kempo Talk by itself, and then we did FMA Talk. But ultimately, I think I love them both. It's a shame that FMA Talk it just didn't make sense to keep the stuff going. We archived all the information, so maybe in the future we could do something. It would be nice to have a site that we could do all this stuff, but this is definitely more fun. I've got people who've complained to me about some of the stuff I said, and I'm like, well, you can come on the show and have a dialogue. Oh, no. They don't want a dialogue. They want a monologue. They want to come and tell us the world. And I'm like, no.
Or they just want to be upset. And if that's your opinion. And if you want to be upset and stay upset, that's on you. That's not on me.
Okay, so boom. We also know martial arts that read the first paragraph or 3 sentences before reading it fully, before replying. Yeah. We get that all the time. I'm like, did you read everything? Like, I remember Paulo reacted to a thing. They were doing a point counterpoint, and I got a little wound up about it. I listened to it, and then I realized I was not. Paulo may have gone a little overboard on it. I listened to it. I'm like, okay, yeah, but this one guy was being a racist prick on there, and I could tell who it was. And I would have loved to have been part of the point counterpoint because I would have torn him apart. Yeah. He used to be part of FMA discussion. He's no longer part of it. And I'm like, they're complaining, how could we? They did a food thing, and they found out the Americans thought the best thing from Filipino martial art or Filipino food was lumpia. If they can't get the food right, how can they get the martial arts right? Well, let's talk about this. Here we go.
Yeah.
Filipinos aren't doing the martial arts because the non-Filipinos are the ones that made it popular. They're the ones that spread it around the world. Our teachers, like Remy, taught it to us, but he didn't teach everybody. We taught the rest. So Remy did his job, and he lit the match, and the others carried the flame. So, but if you look at it, more people non-Filipino are teaching the art.
That can be said with most of the arts, because most of the really good masters moved on. They came to the States or into Europe. Australia, and it's grown from there. Almost all of them.
Hey, here we go. Okay, so I would have busted Paulo's chops on this the other day. Voice to Texas to blame. Okay, there's no problem. Listen, Dr. Mung Ji was my Bando instructor.
Wow.
And his comment was that the States were the best place to train martial arts because everyone around the world came here to do it as a business.
Yep.
I don't go to the Philippines to learn martial arts. Matter of fact, I've learned it much, much better here. I go to learn culture.
The culture.
And I need to go to the Philippines. I go to Toronto because I get exposed to Filipino culture because there's a big community there. But I go to the Philippines to get immersed in it. Ty's learned the language. We both go to the Philippines, and the two of us have felt and I'm speaking for Ty, but please correct me if I'm wrong. I think we both agree that we understand Remy more because of the cultural things we've done, less about the martial art things. Ty, what are your thoughts on that?
No, yeah, definitely. And on 2 levels, both what we've done in the past and also what I came to it with, right, from living in the area for a short while, not in the Philippines, but right next to it. I was able to make some connections with him, which was very rewarding. And then it just doubled down when we went and immersed ourselves.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, listen, I've got nothing else unless how do you feel? You feel good? You got everything out that we need to talk about?
Yeah. I appreciate you having me on and enjoy
anytime.
the evening.
Anytime. I think it's obviously you got a teaching responsibility. so obviously you got to take care of your peeps.
Right.
But let me see here. You talk about the FMA not being around in 20 years if not stepped up. Great discussion, gentlemen. So let's do that so Dean Franco posed a question. This will be the last thing unless we come up with something. He said, Tim, what do you a whole bunch of Filipino martial arts? And he said, what do you think in the next 20 years? As a whole, my thought was that if FMA doesn't do something now, there's going to be very few systems that are going to carry on. The 2 I said that we're going to carry on, and I'm a modern guy first and foremost, but I think Doce Pares and PTK, when it comes to the weapon-based systems, Kuntao and Sikaran are strong right now.
Yeah.
But I think most Filipino martial arts are going to go by the wayside. Thoughts, Coach Dan?
I agree with you. I think that because of how much PTK has grown and it's strong within multiple organizations, that it's going to continue for a while. I think we're going to see better than 90% of the systems that are out there gone in the next 20 to 30 years. They'll be gone because there's no one carrying them forward, which is unfortunate.
Ty, your thoughts?
I think we've talked about this before. I think we know where I stand on those. I mean, we're pretty much on the same page with that.
I don't see many having the strength Combatant will last is good in Europe. Modern Arnis has got a name. I don't think the people are practicing Modern Arnis proper, but they're using the Modern Arnis brand. I don't care about the Philippines. I mean, I don't want to say I don't care about the Philippines. They are promoting Modern Arnis in the Philippines, but more in the sport aspect versus the martial aspect. I think as a whole, unless I mean, my goal is to bring people scratching and screaming and getting them on board with this one way or another. Say, listen, we need to all step up as a community, and I think we can all learn from each other different things. So Korea, Japan, and turned into a business.
Do you think that the Filipino martial arts as a whole is going to be less individual systems and more of a conglomerate?
Well, I think we're having that right now because what do a lot of systems do? Okay, so let's use Serrata as an example. So I know a bunch of people who do Serrata, and when it comes to open hand combatives, they do something else, or they encourage them to do Muay Thai or boxing or whatever. And I can see people teaching a hybrid thing. Personally, what I'd rather see is everyone learning basic boxing, because we know boxing is part of the Filipino culture. Not started there. So when people talk about Panatukan, let me tell you about it. It's still Western boxing. Americans brought it over there. Yes. They just put a little spice in there. So before anyone said, this is our Filipino thing of Suntakan, bullshit, it's American boxing. Stop it. But they definitely made it their own, like the Brazilians do with BJJ. Okay. And I think if we do those types of things, it has a longevity. But I think what's going to happen is that a lot of these arts are just going to die with the person, and it'll become the generic stick art in their school. Like, what do you? I think we're going down the path. What do you think about the Inosanto Blend Kali system as a whole? Do you know much about it?
Well, yeah, I've been through quite a bit of it, but
okay. Do you think you could run a school in that?
Oh, we just froze up, so nope. I don't know what.
Am I there now?
Okay, I got you. I got. Do you think? And that was it.
Do you think it could run a school by itself?
If done right, yes.
Do you think? Because I don't have enough of the Inosanto Kali program. Is there a lot of open hand combatives in it?
There's some. Yeah. Okay. I mean, he does. But I think what's going to happen when Guru Dan moves on. And I hate to see that because I mean I love the man, but I think there's going to be a splintering.
Yeah,
you know, and then people are going to go off doing their own thing, and they're gonna take what they think that they have learned at the level that they think they've learned it and pass that on, because that's all you can do is pass on what you have. You can't pass on what you don't have. Yeah. There'll be some that are really, really good. There'll be some that are terrible. Yeah. But. Yeah.
I mean, right now I'm already seeing it where schools are teaching JKD Kali and they don't know what they're teaching because somebody went to a program to develop a stick program for their art, for their school. They're like a lot of people learning grappling. They learn a little BJJ. It doesn't help BJJ. It does help BJJ because it paid the instructors so they can keep the doors open to get to the students that will carry on for the future. But as the immediate thing, it doesn't bring more people to BJJ. And as they spread it out, now what happens is you've got a grappling program that's just Brazilian, that's in a karate school, or Kempo or whatever, which gets no credit for being Brazilian. And I think you'll see the stick, like a lot of guys in Philly do Kempo, and their secondary system, whether they know or not, it's modern Arnis because that's what was taught to them. But they don't know it as modern; they just know it as Kempo sticks, and it's really Filipino sticks in Kempo. You know, so I think you can see a lot of that happen with many Filipino martial arts until people step up and try to do this as a primary program instead of a secondary or tertiary. And until we do that, I think, like Bikini people, it's not huge numbers, but it's a bunch of organizations that are pushing a movement. Unfortunately, I don't see that in other systems.
No, and then even in the Bikini schools, it's small groups.
Yeah.
It's 10, 12, 15 people max,
Yeah, I know. Paulo we talked on the one show. He goes, oh, no. We were talking about like Ray Dionaldo. Oh, he's everywhere. You go, yeah, but how many of his schools are standalone versus teaching out of somebody else's club? I don't care what his numbers are. How many of his people are doing as a primary system? And when I ask people inside the group, I don't know of anyone who knows of anyone teaching as a primary system. So
Yeah.
how's it going to move forward if you don't have people committing to the art?
And then so many of them don't have their own schools. They're just teaching out of someone else's facility.
And they're collecting rank.
Yes.
You know, I know people who went to the Riddle of Steel, and they're like, oh, I've been here 3 times in a row. And these guys these old timers don't remember the material from the last 3 camps. What's up with that? And we see that in modern too. But anyways, I can go on for hours on this. All right. Okay, here we go. Last comment from our clown, our friend. When I have gas, I've been accused of pushing a movement. Ha, 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 ha. Okay, listen. As always, Danny, it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm going to just sign you out. Just hold on for a second if you got. I just want to.
Sure.
I'm going to wrap up here. We'll be right back. You'll be able to hear this. Okay, listen, Ty, I think that was a good show. What do you think?
No, I think it was really good. It's what I like is a conversation that is interesting and also gets the message out for the people that we do bring on. So I think it was both. It did both of those.
And Steve Benko says, enjoyed the show. Thank you. Have a great week. Yep. So listen, once again, next week's show is going to be What's in a Name, or A Rose by Any Other Name. It's still a thick. We're going to talk about people rebranding their arts, why there could be a need, and maybe why some other people did what they did. The other thing, then the week after that, it's going to be Steve from Vulpus Blades on board. So we'll have those 2 set up, and I got a few other things I'm working on. You are welcome, sir. Welcome very much. Okay, as always, do you have an event coming up?
I think we're tentatively the tax day. We're gonna tax FMA the spring FMA thing April 5th on tax day. Tax.
Tax day is April 5th.
Sorry, 15th, April 15th. So that'll be Saturday. But that I got to double check that we can get the venue.
Yeah, and then the week after that, we're in New Hampshire.
We'll get more of these. Oh, and look.
Oh, nice.
Flexible. So nice training knife. I might give those away. We'll see.
He's printing those because,
because I'm a
now just have to learn how to print money, and he's all good to go.
That's right.
All right. And Michael Haron, I like the show.
Good deal.
Hey, Mike. We'd love to have you. And thank you. You're welcome, Jerry. All right, listen, as always, it is a pleasure to be able to share our thoughts on my thoughts and my friend doing the same thing. It's nice that we can agree and disagree and have a dialogue, and we're still all friends at the end. And I really do this platform, like, what Coach Danny asked. I think FMA Talk Live is the best thing that we've ever done, because we can have a real dialogue. You can hear what we're thinking, and we can go from there.
It's a little more human and relatable, and then people maybe don't get so personal. I don't know.
All right. Yep. So listen, what's he say? Looks like
kind of, yeah. It's actually tougher than most of your training blades. So,
and then Adam says good night. So listen, we as always, please stay safe and stay sane. This is Dr. Tim,
PG Ty,
saying good night and see you all soon.